What's up, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 258. Maybe. This guy looks like Pete Turner. He's an American badass. We're going to find out in a minute. The episode starts right now. It's good, Pete.
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man.
Nice.
It's funny. We were talking off mic about the challenges of running a podcast. You and I both know this world well. Earlier today, I don't know why, but all of a sudden my camera blinked out, blink like that. I couldn't crack it. I don't know what had happened. And I'd had a cable switch me from camera one to camera two, and camera two wasn't on because I wasn't using camera two. And I lost my mind trying to figure out as I was recording my show why my camera, and I never once considered that but I rolled with it. I switched over to the onboard camera in my laptop, and I'm like, I'll figure this out later. But that's just how it is in our world, right? Like there's these things that are bedeviling. Sometimes it's the software, a lot of times it's me. And one thing I've learned, man, about all this stuff is that before I get mad at anybody else, I better like quintuple check. Because it's probably me. It's probably me. I either didn't do something, I missed something, I'm wrong. And it's not that I'm down on myself. It's just like, let's start here with what do I owe? And when it's my show, if I don't have a good show with you, it's my fault. I didn't do my job, right? And my podcast has taught me to be humble, be patient, slow down, not worry about things that don't matter. I've learned so much by doing this. So I appreciate you going through this whole thing. And, where's my laptop? I don't know. Right. And you're not losing your mind about it. You're upset about it, but you're trying to figure it out. That's what we do in this world. And it's an amazing addition to the character that I've already built. And so I appreciate that. I see that in you.
Well, the wildest thing is podcasting and coaching has one thing in common. The safest place I feel is on the sideline for coaching, and the safest place I feel when I'm podcasting is actually in the podcast. So we're kind of in our safe space where we do what we do best. But for everyone who just joined us, I want you guys to appreciate just a brief thing of what we had here. I'm gonna go to camera 2 for a minute. This part in the desk is supposed to have a laptop. As you guys know in the podcast, the last 20 episodes, I've been doing everything live, right? And I really wanted to get this guy live because he's the second guy of this military magnitude that I've had on the podcast that I just thought have some interaction, but I'll do it on a live, on a restream or whatever, and this and that. So. Yeah, but you were talking about some of the challenges, and I think the one thing we have in common is the ability to adapt and improvise, and I think that comes from both of our military training. You have been in the military extensively longer than me. I'm a family traditionalist, so like all the men in my family served, so I served. That's just something the men do. From my father, grandfather, both grandfathers Korean War, World War II, and both grandfathers World War One. Father Vietnam War. I'm a Gulf War vet. Kid sister, first female to serve, did 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2014, 12 to 14. So, for everybody that doesn't know, he's a former Green Beret. He's an American spy. He's an American badass. And before we get into all of that, I'd just like to ask the fun question. To quote Danny DeVito from the movie Renaissance Man, we want you to write a brief synopsis why you joined this institution of imbeciles. They're like, huh? He says, I want you to tell me why you joined the Army. It was like, his civilian perspective. Fun movie, by the way. Why'd you join the Army? Let's start from, I don't know, maybe the teens, or let's turn the clock way back. Why the Army?
Let me just first say this. So, and this happens when we describe what we do. I was not a Green Beret, so I don't want to. But I've worked with those guys. I worked with the SEALs. I've augmented those guys a lot. So when I was doing my spy stuff, I know a lot about the teams, but from a non-team guy position. I don't want us to go any further without getting it. But don't feel bad about making that mistake, because it's easy to look at my career, because a lot of the stuff I write about is stuff that I did with those guys. So that's the first thing.
Yeah, like Jesse Ventura's a frogman, but he wasn't a Navy SEAL, right? But he was a frogman. So, there is some semantical stuff to this. I get that.
Yeah, there's those parallels, right? And so, and it's no big deal to get it wrong, because it's to understand what a spy does, people in the military don't know what a counterintelligence agent does. I mean, I've met commanders who are like, I didn't realize you guys did all this. And I'm like, well, we don't. I do. And this is how I do the job. So our job is very specific. So I don't expect anybody to understand it. I don't expect my peers to know what I do or for me to know what they do. I'm familiar, right? But it's a very multidisciplined discipline. And even within that, you may have a career that's so unique in my field that your peers will be like, you didn't do all that, but you did, because it's an amazing job. So it's yeah. So okay, when I joined, I didn't know I was going to join. The biggest thing that drove me to join was I couldn't find a real job. I didn't have any experience, so I couldn't get a job. But I couldn't get a job because I didn't have any experience. And I had a college degree, had all that stuff, and then me and this other dude in the same boat, because that's how the economy was. He's like in the late part of the early 90s. He same problem. He's like, I got all these degrees and went to all these great schools, and I can't find a good gig. And we're both, stocking shelves at Costco. I don't remember who this dude even is. Like, I remember all kinds of people in my life, but I don't remember who this guy was. It's almost like he was placed there magically or by God or somebody. And it got me thinking, like, why am I afraid to go into the army? Like, why do I not want to do that? Because, a lot of my family had done it. It wasn't a thing that we had done as a family, but because our families had been around for, 150 years, right? Like everybody had served at some point, Civil War, all these things. And so it just wasn't a big thing now, though. Like we were kind of post-war in the 90s, right? It turned out we weren't, but yeah. So I just had to make a decision because my life wasn't going in a direction that I felt like I liked. I was not asking enough of myself, and so I did it. Along this, right around the same time, another buddy of mine was in the same boat where he was kind of adrift, and he's like, and he was Mormon, growing up. He's like, I'm going to go on my mission. And his going on his mission kind of unlocked for me, like, man, that's just 2 years. That's no big deal. If Dave can do that, I can do that. Why am I afraid to go do what's 5 years? If I went and did 5 years in the army, so what? I'll be done with that before I know it. And it was a great solution to my problem. I wasn't happy with my direction. I was unable to figure out how to get a job. And I did this thing that allowed me, and there was a lot of challenging things about the army that I did not like. But and ultimately, I was better at being. You may appreciate this. I was better at being with the army than in the army. So I knew how to do army stuff, but my job and how I approached it allowed me to have a lot of independence that was frowned upon in a unit because you're supposed to do things in a unified way. So that's sort of my journey to get into the army was just kind of by accident, unplanned, but I had to pivot, and that pivot worked out really well for me overall. But again, nothing's easy. There are a lot of things that suck while being in the army, but here I am today, and I think it was a great decision for me.
Yeah, I could certainly appreciate that because when I'm in the army, it was really about who my company commander was, right? Like,
Mm.
I supported at 165th MI. I was part of a signal unit, 22nd
I was in
Signal.
the 165th.
Oh, cool. Darmstadt, Germany.
Hell yeah,
That was
yeah.
me, 90 to 93, my man. So Frankfurt.
Wow, I just missed you. I
So
just missed
Frankfurt,
you then.
yeah. So Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Well, let me just do the chronology. Boot camp, Halloween, 1990. Right. Went to AIT New Year's Day, Fort Belvoir. I was a generator mechanic, 52 Delta.
Yeah.
I'm sure that code's changed by now, but
Sure.
and then graduated AIT April Fool's Day. So the very easy dates to remember. And then I was in Frankfurt, and then we gave that base back to the Germans, Abrams Complex, and the
Hmm.
unit, 32nd Signal Battalion, 22nd Signal Brigade, moved to Darmstadt.
Yeah.
And small world, my man. So yeah, I
I know
left in
exactly where you
'93.
guys were quartered when I was there. At least the signal unit. I don't know
Yeah,
if it was still the because they're always rolling up flags and changing it.
yeah.
But how funny is that? So you supported 165th while you were at Darmstadt.
Yeah. Well, I was part of the 32nd Signal Battalion, but every time they needed to jump, they needed a generator mechanic, they needed
Yeah.
a Humvee mechanic, and they needed a sergeant in charge. So I was one of the same three people that just volunteered all the time, right? Because I
Sure.
believe 165th had their own motor pool or whatever, but it was
We
it was a
did.
it was a mix
Yeah.
and match for a while. You know,
I was in that motor pool all the damn time.
yep. That was me, man. It's fixing
Yeah.
generators, man. I was an oil monkey.
Man, that's crazy. I didn't get there until I guess I got there. So I graduated AIT in the last bit of November of '94,
We 11
and
Bravo.
they were going to send us down the road, and nobody from my class stood up for us. I'm like, hey, it's going to be Thanksgiving in like 4 days. Can't we just go to Thanksgiving and then deploy after? We all have vacation saved up.
Right.
And our commander's like, oh, that's a good idea. so, so already I was kind of sticking my neck out, you know. But yeah, so I arrived right after Thanksgiving, and everybody was shut down for Christmas. You know how it is in the Army. It's like, it's the time to go take vacation right now. And so my time at Darmstadt really didn't start until the beginning of '95, when we were in full bore again. So I had missed you, but we know that same place. So I don't know if you know this, but the gym there on that caserne collapsed from snow right like like during the
Wow.
winter of '94, '95. And
Man,
that thing was out of
I
commission.
played
I
many
don't know.
volleyball games there. Pickup
Yeah,
basketball. I'm a
yeah.
volleyball guy.
Oh,
In
really?
fact,
I
my
love
sergeant
volleyball.
major gave me a release for 5 months to play on the military community team, and then
Dang, you're
they flew
good.
me to Benjamin Harris, Indiana, to try out for like the Army
Sure,
team. So it was like the second half of my military career really involved that. Sergeant
man.
major.
I almost pulled that
Yeah.
off. I almost pulled that off. There was
Yeah, tell
I
me,
played
because
volleyball
someone did
pretty
it.
well.
My friend did it for rodeo, but I want to hear your story.
Yeah, rodeo. That would be great. Yeah, no, but so I was pretty good at volleyball, and in AIT there were two guys who happened just because it's the Army and there's world class athletes all around you. So these guys were both nationally ranked in beach volleyball, and so we started playing like an organizational day for the brigade, and they realized that I could do something as simple as jump serve, and that already makes you like elite,
That's
like
it.
if you can do that. And we hated playing like patty cake ball back and forth, and I was willing to give them everything, and these guys were so good. All I had to do was just feed them, and I didn't have to even feed them well. And they're like, if we end up in the same place, we can go get on the same team. And for sure, between the three of us, like they would tell me, Pete, hit the serve long because it's no fun anymore. And we would lay up to bring the other team back in. And oh man, if the other team talked any kind of mess, this guy Martin, he would elevate. He'd pick the guy, look at him because he could hang. He'd look at that guy, point at him, bam, and give it to him. You
Got you.
know,
Got
you
you.
know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You
Well,
know what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Well, the Army also has a big Samoan population too, right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
I
Yeah.
sorry. Like my campaign year, we had to beat Baumholder, right? Fliegerhorst and Hanau, which were like the big volleyball communities that was littered by Samoans, some guys from Hawaii, some guys from Guam, the Polynesian area, where these guys, none of these guys were over 6'2", none of them weighed under 240, and none of them jumped under 40 inches. They were just
Mm,
ridiculously good players. So,
right.
so my campaign year, our regionals we took first.
Mm.
The Frontier Tacom League, the Hessen Pfalz League. I actually got the plaque right here. I'm going to show you. The Hessen Pfalz League we took first, and then the Army European Championship we took third
Yeah.
to both of those teams I was telling you about, Mannheim and Pirmasens. Actually, I'm going to go back to
It's
camera too.
funny.
Let me show you. Actually, let me show you the plaque. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Right there. That's
Oh
me.
my goodness. Look at that.
1993,
Yeah.
1993
Yeah.
Hessen. Dude, we live in I can't believe that I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
finally get to talk to some real people and not volleyball people, and it comes back full circle to volleyball.
Well, it's funny because what people don't understand about the military is a lot of I'll say failed athletes move on to the next thing, and it's often the military. So when I was at Huachuca as cadre, I came back 'cause that's the spy school. There was like this. Oh, there's a guy. He's playing flag football and he's got world class speed, and I'm fast, right? But I'm not that fast, and I'm like, yeah, world class speed, whatever. And that dude took a kickoff, and I had angle for days, and I dropped it in the fast gear, and I went after him. Nothing. I didn't even get in his wake. And I'm like, God damn, that guy's fast.
Oh my
And he would
god.
just run fly patterns, and he just had a blast. All you had to do was have enough arm to get it out to him because he could outrun. He just wore running tights back before yoga pants were a thing, and he was so fast.
Now everybody wears it to look like a, just,
yeah,
it's just
right.
like, sorry.
Yeah. There was a lieutenant, and she played volley because West Point you have to have a sport, and she
Yeah.
played volleyball. And so whenever we did unit volleyball, I'm like, "Are you going to play, Dana?" And she's like, "No, I'm not going to play this kind of." Because like, it's no if you know how to play volleyball, it's no fun to watch people just swatting the ball back and forth. Like let's slow down and do something with it and have some fun. Especially like if the net's all saggy, it's like, oh
Yeah.
please, let's.
Yeah, no, you're
But
right. Guess
yeah.
guess what I just found on my laptop.
What,
So we're
your
we're gonna.
laptop?
So I want you to finish that story, and if I look away, I'm
Okay.
using this time to go live. We're gonna go live.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
the
let's
hell?
go live. Let's do it.
No, keep going.
The other thing, so I was pretty good at softball, and there was a time when I was pretty unhappy with being stuck at headquarters, and I'm like, what if I just turn myself into, I'm not going to be all Army, but I could be something in Europe, and I'm not a world class athlete, but I know my role on a team. So you put me on the basketball team, I know what to do. I know how to lock down a defense. You put me on a softball team, I know what to do, and I don't need to shine on left field. Left field can go do that. I'll go play. I'll figure out where to go. I was making a serious effort to maybe get into that, and I was like, I'll go join Army Choir, USARA Army Choir. I don't care. I'm not going to continue to be trapped here at headquarters because I was like, and man, I don't know if you guys had this in the generator world, but in our world Intel's a lot of backstabbing, and there's a lot of
Yes.
non-motivated people, right? And their job is to be smart, and they're kind of nerdy. And I'm an athlete, but I'm also smart. So I'm like a thoroughbred. I'm trapped over here. And then I would say, why don't I go to group and go become a Green Beret? Nobody wanted to enable that. And so I wasn't well led. And so I had all this energy, and I'm like, I have to apply it. So if we hadn't deployed to Bosnia, there's a good chance that I would have made a hard play to get into something. Also, Huachuca is the home of Army box. At least at the time, it's the home of Army boxing, and so if you wanted to box and make that be your full time job, that coach had a lot of influence, and there was a chance to do that. But none of those things lined up for me, and it turned out that I was good at my job, and I got to finally do it, and that kind of cured me of that rambunctiousness, and I was able to apply myself in a different way so that I didn't have to worry about playing softball or whatever. But believe me, like I was very seriously considering how do I get on some kind of team to do some kind of sport because it seemed very attainable if you if you pick the right situation and there was the right kind of backing.
No doubt. No doubt. Also, I would also suggest the Army really gets rid of the excuse factor, right? Like, let's say you have a halfway decent coach. Let's say it's softball. Let's say it's boxing. And the Army has some awfully good boxing coaches. They really do. And
Yeah.
at the time when I was at Darmstadt, we had a player coach named Ike Perez, who was the tallest Guamanian I've ever seen in my life. He was 6'8". And I mean, I could picture this guy walking around Guam, looks like a father amongst children, right? But
Absolutely. Yeah.
here's the thing. You're out fresh out of boot camp. You're fresh out of AIT. You're probably in the best shape you've ever been in your life, arguably, right? You
Yeah.
got decent coaching. You got decent motivation. You have a don't quit attitude. So you really find out right away if that's the sport you belong in because it eliminates these little nonsensical rationalizations and excuses. Oh, I couldn't do it because it is. I couldn't do it because of that. Where. So the Army really showed me how far I could go. I ended up playing professionally. I ended up staying in Darmstadt.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I went to Hunter
Yeah.
College in New York for one semester for a cup of coffee, and then I came back and I played for their team, Darmstadt 421, for their club team.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I was good enough to play for 2 years, and at the end of the day, I was not good enough to play more than that. It's still better
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
I'm still in the top 3 percentile. But the
It's
cool thing
amazing.
about the
Yeah.
Army is you realize right away, and I started coaching early because of that. And don't get me wrong, I still play. Uh, um,
hmm
I'm kind of in shape. Rounds is a shape, right? A round, you round, I'm
Rounds
round.
are
We
shake.
round.
Hell yeah. Ball's got to hit something. Might as well hit me.
He said the ball's got to hit something. So, we were talking about company commanders, right? So my first half
Yeah.
of the military, great company commander. They promoted me to Spec 4 in like 9 months because when you're a Spec 4, you can fix generators unsupervised. And they're like, all
Mm.
right, this kid's from New York, just leave him alone, right? But then we had a new company commander. Dude's leaning on everybody. Sent a pregnant woman to
Mm.
the field so he could meet a percentage quota. Girl's like 8 months pregnant, right? And then he moved all of the 100-hour services up to like 60-hour services. And here's what made me quit. when the lieutenant colonel, the battalion commander, his name was Taylor, Taylor
Hmm.
and Pearler, that's the sergeant major and battalion commander, comes up to him because, of course, someone has to pay for this, right? And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, their budget's like kind of skewed, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're in their motor pool, so I'm listening to the conversation, right? And he's like, "That's not a question for me. My generator mechanic's right there. Ask him, right?" And I just went, and the lieutenant colonel's like, "Can you excuse us, please?" And I'm like, "This is my office." He's like, "Son, I need the office." I'm like, "All right, fine, I'm out of here," right? But I was like, I cannot be here because for the first time in my life, I was put in a situation where someone else was calling the shots. But if it failed, I'm the one that had to hold the ball. This
Yeah.
dude, this dude was an absolute. He couldn't just say, "Hey, this is on me. I gave this guy specific orders to do this," even though he advised against it, which I didn't. I'm like, you know, sir, captain, this is a normal protocol, right? And this is what happens when you got these guys who are not feel great officers, right? It's
Yeah.
it's a coin toss, and but once they reach major or higher, they kind of figure that out because the army decides if they want them or not. But
Yeah.
I was like, okay, because any thoughts I had about making this a career, I can't. I mean, I could be a contractor. I could go to Saudi Arabia
Sure.
and fix
Yeah.
generators for like what 120 grand a year. That would have been nice,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But the army pushed me a different direction. I realized I can do this volleyball thing, and
Yeah.
and it's really taken
Well,
a
I'm
hold of
glad you
my
got
life.
to do that, man,
Mhm.
because again, like I was in a lot of ways, I was trapped. So, and this will make sense to you. I don't know how it'll make sense to the audience, but we were doing a battalion run. And again, you got rangers attached to an intel unit. And then you got a bunch of mechanics, right? So mechanics often a lot more athletic than a bunch of intel guys, whether they're interrogators or counterintelligence people. And so we go out for a unit run. And because I'm one of the guys that's in shape. Like I would see my PT scores, like they would obscure the name, and I'm like, "Who's that guy?" I'm like, "Oh, that guy's me." Yeah.
Yes, let's go.
But I would carry the guide on a lot of times, right? And you got to remember, like in Intel, everybody's got a degree. So I'm as old as the captain is for our unit, right? And so maybe he's 25 and I'm 24, maybe but we're like a year apart from each other, and he would talk down to me, and I'm like, what are you talking down to me for? Like I had no respect for someone like that. I mean, yes, he was the commander. I'm gonna do whatever he says. But when you talk down to me like I'm stupid or something, it's like, hey man, you're in the wrong field for that.
Hmm.
Anyhow, so I'm carrying the guide on, and we're doing the whole run around the battalion thing with the guide on. And so he sends me out to go. And of course, I'm going to go, and I'm going to dominate that. And so I start hauling ass. And behind me and behind us, our unit is the infantry guys, and they hate us because we're a bunch of dorks. And so there's a guy behind me, and he's not going to catch me because I'm running. But I run around the front of the formation, and you know those old trails are full of moss on the
Yeah.
asphalt.
Yep.
And so I slip, bang, and I drive the guidon into the ground, and I cut myself all up. And I'm looking at the boss. I'm looking at the lieutenant commander or lieutenant colonel, and I get up and I start running. And while that happened, the infantry guy passed me, and I'm like, "Oh fuck no,
No,
you're
get out of
not
here.
gonna." Mm-mm. And so I put that guide on down a horizontal, and I started moving, and everybody saw what was
Put it
happening.
in
And
stab mood.
yeah, man, I got it going, and everybody could see us running. And that guy's like stoked, like whoop whoop whoop, because he had passed me up, and I'm like, this is not happening. And I went down and I terminated that dude. I rolled him hard. He lost fast, and when I went by him, he had no idea because his guys were screaming like, "You better run! You better!" And he was like, "Yeah, I better run!" And woof, I went around him, and boy, he got it. He got it later on, man, oh man. And so it's funny because I got a lot of cred from Echo Company, the infantry guys, right? They're like, "That dude's a badass. He's not one of them. He's more like one of us." And my unit couldn't care less because we aren't like army people for whatever reason. And I never got that. Like I didn't fit in there because I had this predator attitude. Like I looked at them like competition. And when you're an athlete, you're like, how do I stack up on this team? Even if
Yes.
I'm the guy who's, serving and setting, that's fine. That's my job. But I'm gonna look at my peers and in a good way, I'm gonna compete with them. Man, these intel guys, they shrank back from that. You know, when I looked at him and I'm like, I'm going to do what I got to do boards. I never lost a board. Never. I
Nice.
destroyed everybody on
Push me a
boards,
different.
and I was in great shape, and I was doing all the things that E4s are supposed to do. The only thing they did with me, man, is they'd bounce me around section to section so that every NCO who I worked for got an excellent block because I did correspond. I did all that stuff. What I was lacking was the guy to go, hey, man, take some of that energy because a lot of it came off bad, right? I didn't know how to present myself as a professional, and I was just desperate to like work hard and destroy, and no one could guide me towards a better version of that. And so yeah, it's when you talk about these things that you experience like via volleyball and everything else, I built our unit softball team, I built our unit football team because I knew that I could go out and do that, and it's there's no rank on the field, you just go out and play. And I loved it. I love that part of the army where you could build something and then and do that. But imagine this, man, an E4 in an intel unit. Everybody's like, oh, no one's gonna want to play softball. And I led and I got a team together, and still they're like, yeah, not that impressed. You know, the Echo Company guys love me. They're like, you know, because they respected me because I was in great shape. And I'll say this and I'll shut up. You know, because I was fit, I use it to my advantage. And again, I'm in the intel unit. So these guys are like, I can't do 18 push-ups. And so the sergeant major is kind of joking around. And he's like, I saw you, Turner. And I'm like, what did I do? What? Yes, Sergeant Major, what do you want? And you know, he was a pretty friendly guy. And he's like, just get down. And I'm like, aren't you supposed to get down with me? And he's like, you just push until I get tired. And so I go, I don't get tired. 0, 0, 0. I just kept counting 0. I just racked out like 60 zeros, you know. And he said, yeah, just get up. Just get ahead. But for whatever reason, all that insanity didn't turn into my unit going, hey, what do we do with Pete? Where do we direct this guy, right? He doesn't need to be led by us. Where do we put him so we can get someone in front of him? And I never found that person. And that's why I got out of the army. Was the army never asked me to stay, frankly. Like, and it wasn't because they don't like me. It was just because, like, oh yeah, we're busy. Shoot, you're gonna ETS, huh? All right, we'll write you an award. You know, like, and they never thought to say, hey, what do we got to do to get you to reenlist? You know,
Were
they
you
never even
were you
tried.
an officer or enlisted?
No, I was enlisted the whole
Right.
time, and it was
Because if you're
several times.
enlisted, the solution's easy. Just make you a squad leader. You know,
Yeah, but we don't have
occupy
squad
your
leaders
time.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't
Okay.
have squad
Right.
leaders because we don't run our unit like that. Everybody's kind of doing their individual thing, right? And when I got to Huachuca, you know, I'm working as cadre, so I'm teaching in a class, and I'm the lowest ranking guy around. Like I am the only I'm the guy they hand around to be a squad member, you know, so they can say you led somebody. It's very
I like
individual.
that. Go float. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it didn't have the traditional kinds of things. So I'll say this too. So I was competing hard with all my peers, winning every board I sat in front of, and I went to the brigade soldier of the quarter board and I smashed it, just destroyed it. And my sergeant major, the guy that did the push-ups for, he saw me there and he's like, man, that guy was great. And he was sitting as the brigade sergeant major instead of battalion. He's covering for the, you know, for the brigade guy. And he's like, I want Pete's promotion packet on my desk. And I was like, hell yeah. You know,
Let's
like
do it.
I got here faster than ever. Every NCO in my chain below me is like, oh, you know, it doesn't work like that, Pete. It doesn't work like that. And I'm like, really?
Jeez.
Yeah. And so it told me that like, oh, I had to counsel my NCO. Like, hey, you're not counseling me like you're supposed to. You're supposed to do it every month. You're not doing it. So here's a counsel. He wouldn't sign it. And I'm like, this is the problem is I shouldn't have to counsel. You should be doing your job. What do I need to do? You know? And so it let me know that I wasn't going to be led. And so I became this wild horse within a unit. And then when I went to Huachuca after my deployment, I knew not to trust any NCOs. And this is like the NCO Academy for all intel people,
And
right?
Huachuca's where? Sorry. Huachuca's
Huachuca's South Arizona. It's down by
Arizona.
Tombstone.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, none of these people are on my side. It's always up to me. And that was the wrong lesson. I picked up the wrong lesson. There were a lot of good leaders out there. And I found out after I got out, like I would like meet these other guys from 165th, and they'd be like, man, I saw you. And I wish I could have been your boss because I would have handled you differently. I saw you. you know? And I was like, oh man, I would get so frustrated, man. I would make all these dumb decisions and childish decisions because I didn't know how to solve this problem of here I am, motivated, self-motivated, leading myself, and I don't know what direction to go. I'm just going to be full of fury and everything else. And and then we deployed to Bosnia, and all of that worked out because I had the energy and the attitude and the fitness to compete in a way where it didn't matter what my peers did. I had more work than I could take on, and it took me in a new direction that was a whole lot better.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you did boot camp where?
Leonard Wood, Leonard Wood. I did it, and I got there on April Fool. I got to actual basic training on April Fool's Day. So my day
Leonard
zero
Wood
was
is where?
April Fool's
Sorry.
Day. Leonard Wood, Missouri. So it's like right in the
Got you.
heart of Missouri.
Nice. I did
Fort Leonard Wood. Yeah.
Fort Knox. Yeah.
Okay.
What
Yeah,
was your
that makes
MOS
sense.
again? What was your actual MOS?
97 Bravo, counterintelligence. Agent.
Counterintelligence. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I could be Pete Turner and no one would know. Are you Pete Turner? Of course
We're all
not.
Pete Turner.
Listen, we could go Army all day, and if we want to stay there, that's cool
Yeah.
because I reminded you, and as I remind our audience, it's more of a conversation than an interview. This is a podcast, and I felt like I got to know you really quick, so I don't want to fall into this thing where we're like two guys just talking crap because I
Sure.
really want people to get to know you. And I have kind of an agenda, I guess, too. Give me one or two things that your military service has immediately made an asset to you in the civilian world for your endeavors and this and that. I'll give you an example on my part from a simplified perspective. There is value in coming on time. Showing up on time
Yeah.
everywhere, showing up early, or how is it? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you're fired, right?
Yeah.
There's value there's value in showing people respect. Using the
Yeah.
word sir or ma'am is like some people it's insulting, but I think the default is really cool. Because if someone chuckles at it, they mean they get the joke. If someone's offended by it, then you know who you're dealing with, and you don't want to deal with that person either, right? It's like holding a woman for a chair, right? If you hold a woman, if you hold a chair for a woman, and she gets offended, run. run. Run as if your life depends on it, because that woman is incapable of solving real problems because she's hysterical about problems that don't exist. So
Yeah.
I gave you just two simplified examples. You can take off. The floor is yours.
Well, one of the things I learned was that there was a place for this fury that I had in me, this willingness to go out and outwork problems, because the Army will always have more problems than there's time to solve. And combat and I got along really well. I got it. I understood it. I understood what to do, where to go, how to talk to people, and I just got better and better and better at it. And that just was perfect for me, because I'm a pretty high energy guy. Like when I'm home and hanging with my friends, I'm a totally different dude. Like I'm happy go lucky, just goofing around. But when it's working time, man, for whatever reason, I want that yoke and I want to go get it. And when you're in garrison, people don't know what to do with you if you do that. So I was just built for combat. And I was like, I'm an intel guy. And I'm like, can I go to Ranger school? I'm in great shape. Like, let me just go. And I tried to be a lifeguard. They're like, well, you're the wrong rank. And I'm like, rank? That don't matter. I was a lifeguard when I was 15.
Yeah,
Like,
get out of
why
here.
is
Get out of
rank
here,
matter?
wrong rank. Yeah.
Right out, right. What? So they sent a guy. So I'm the one that raised the stink about this. And I'm like, what do you mean an E4 can't go be a I've been a lifeguard, like I can swim. So they sent another E4 who couldn't swim. And I'm like, you guys, you have to be able to swim. I can
Yes.
swim all day. We go to drown proof.
So it wasn't a rank thing. If they sent another E4.
Well, they made an exception, but they sent the other guy, and then he failed out because he couldn't swim 500 meters in 10 minutes or whatever he had to do, because when you're a lifeguard, you have to be able to swim.
Right.
And that's like the first thing. And it's amazing how many people can't swim. And if you're from California, like if you even try, you can just swim. I can swim a mile right now. Throw me in the water right now. I'll swim a mile, no problem. Most people on the planet can't do that. So who cares about that? But I learned that I had other gears. and I had a place to put that energy, and I could channel that fury and then start working on me. The other thing I learned, and I love your common courtesies, your greeting of the day. Like that was stuff that I'd never done before, and I've only gotten better and better at that stuff. The other thing I learned was that you could always find a different angle on how to approach whatever problem you had. You know, the counterintelligence world is a big, complex world. The way I approached it, if I could take off my internal peak camera and put it on Jason's shoulders and try to see your world through your eyes, then I'm going to be that much more aware of what's going on. And then put that camera above us, put it over here, put it in that farmer's eyes. All of a sudden, I start to understand what's going on around me in a way that allows me to have greater appreciation for other points of view, other things that might be true that I could never comprehend because I've just looked through my own eyes my whole life. And so my job was one, the way I approached it was one where if I could relate to other people, I don't care if you're a murderer, I don't care if you're a rapist, my job was to know that have the evilest people I can find, have them be my friends and to genuinely care about them. And so I have to find room to allow folks to be folks. And I learned that because of the Army. And that has paid dividends to this day. Every day it pays dividends because I just let people be at my best. I let people be people, and I don't worry about things that are out of my control because they have to figure out things at their own pace. And that assumes that I know where I'm going and that I'm ahead of them. Maybe I'm behind them. And when you start to realize that, the way you interact with people improves dramatically.
It helped. So in other words, it helped you measure people better, right? There's an old saying, right? Just because you see where someone stands doesn't mean you know how they got there, right? And
Right.
the more I repeat that to myself, the more I'm empathetic to other people's plights, where I might think in my mind or in my own psyche that they're trying to slight me or this or that, you know, because I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I'm also a hater by nature, so.
Mm.
It's always going to be a personal struggle, internal struggle for me, right? Especially like at our age when you feel like you did everything that was asked of you, then more, and the juice is supposed to be at the end, but they're not giving you the squeeze. There's going to
Yeah.
be frustration. There's going to be resentment. There might even be self-doubt, right? Maybe more the latter than the former. So I appreciate that you said that because I think kids of all ages can relate, but I'm guessing you're 53.
55.
Okay,
55.
I'm 55.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And we
I'll
don't
be
even look it,
56
right? I
in
look like a
January.
creepy 30. I don't even look 50.
Yeah.
I'm
What are
like,
you doing
hey,
over
little
there?
girl.
Drinking baby. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I'm kidding. I did that with my kid when she's crying. I was like, I'm gonna take your tears and I'm gonna put them over here because it makes
Yeah.
my face look younger. And my kid's like, I'm like, stop crying right now. Mom is cracking up, you know. So yeah, so I really like that, and it got you into this podcast world, right? You
Yeah.
lock into something. At some point, you realize you have the gift of gab.
Yeah.
Clearly, you do. And it's giving you this focus. It's giving you this foundation to allow you to take off and do some of the great things you're doing. I just listened. I familiarized myself with you very quickly. I listened to four podcast episodes. So, I mean, it's pretty cool when you like video games. You could just listen and, and just play
Yeah.
Avengers, right?
Yeah.
And I really liked, I mean, what was it? What was it? Jim Neverett, right? Jim Neverett.
Yeah.
That was really cool. I really thought that Brian Asman was good too as well about the haunted house stuff. But
Yeah.
I am a big mixed martial arts and football fan. Like when I'm
Yeah.
not coaching volleyball, when I'm not commentating, and when I'm not being a hater on my podcast, I'm a true hater, dude. I'm the type of guy that if I finally got the mansion I deserved, I'd pick up a brick and throw it through my own window. But I wanted to talk about Jim Neverett, that last podcast, because
Yeah.
you had a conversation about performance enhancing drugs in baseball. And that was
Yeah.
such an intriguing conversation because there's the conflicting forces of one, not wanting to be remembered that way because at that time everyone was doing it, right? So taking
Yeah.
it was just evening the playing field versus your legacy of performance. And did you cheat, right? So,
Right.
well, and I really appreciated that you guys actually had this great conversation, right? Because there's two ways to have a conversation. You can dig in your heels and have it be an
Yeah,
oppositional thing, or it could be a cooperative thing. You ever play Call of Duty, right? We could do a mission
sure.
together. We're not sure, but
Yeah,
we're answering these questions together. Or I'm
yeah.
on this side, you're on this side, like Democrats and Republicans, and let's come from that position. So I wanted you for the audience. I wanted your take on like some of the PEDs, and it's crazy because we let right off the other subject matter. But
Yeah.
what was your original take on, like, let's say the Sammy Sosa Mark McGuire race?
Well,
Let's just talk
like
about
first off, in
that.
real time, it was awesome. It
Wasn't
was
it
so much
great?
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I lived across the street from Wrigley, like on Waveland, right?
What?
Wait, I live in Sheffield. I live in Sheffield. I lived in right field,
Nice.
and so Barry Bonds hit a ball in batting practice that broke a window 3 floors up from us in our building. I mean, that's how close to the ballpark I was. I was across the street, right? So,
They're screaming
um,
Barry.
yeah, absolutely. It was funny because we would hear the game because we're right there, right? And I want everybody to understand across the street from us is the outfield wall, right? There's nothing in between us except for the street. So we are right there. Anytime you see a game and they show that shot of the outfield, we're in right field. So the game would go roar, and then we would see it on our TV in the front room of our house, and we would all go roar. And then the cable in the back was a little bit slower, so it'd be like roar, 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 and it was awesome. It was like Mardi Gras living there. I loved that era of baseball. And the thing that I was saying with Tim, and by the way, everybody, Tim's he's one of the broadcasters for the Dodgers. Sometimes he does a TV call, sometimes he does a radio call, and he's just fantastic. He's a pros pro. And I was like, that era, you could lift weights now. Because when we were kids, we were told you lift weights, you play baseball, you're going to bound up and you're not going to be good. So they got over that. The ability to eat and test your blood and eat perfectly and have chefs cook for you. They made enough money that, Barry Bonds, way before steroids, was perfecting what he put in his body and then testing it and then improving it. And so guys didn't get out of shape in the off season. All of these things come to fruition in the 90s, where dudes are like, yeah, we have to do deadlifts. That was unheard of 10 years before. So also the league expanded by 4 teams. And when they also did that during the strike years, when they resolved that, they opened up that 25th man slot that they hadn't been using because of whatever the owners wanted to compress the league.
Right.
And so really that was a fifth team worth of players when you add that 25th player in on every roster. So you added 5 teams worth of talent into that means that talent went down the pool, right? So the lower level players against Sammy Sosa. I mean, come on. Sammy Sosa was a great player before he took steroids. And we don't think of that. We think, no, 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 no. No, like he was, I wrote a whole thing about it. He was fantastic. So when we say, oh, it was steroids, like, well, it was also video. It was also all these things. By the way, the league controlled the ball. And if the league juiced the ball like they did in '87, look what happened to the numbers that year, right?
And
So all
94
these
too,
things,
man. 94. It
yeah.
seemed like
Oh,
everyone was
94.
the strike year. It felt like the Yankees and Montreal Expos
Yeah.
were like,
How many new ball yards did they build before '98?
right?
Right? And they made them all smaller. And I'm supposed to believe that steroids was the only reason why Mark McGuire, who hit, man, I lived, and I was in Oakland all the time when McGuire was coming up. That's I'm from the Bay, and he hit the ball. We would go to batting practice before anybody ever worried about steroids, And I don't know if anybody wants to say officially when he started taking stuff, but I love when they show pictures of him when he's young and he's just got like these triangles for shoulders because he's already he's just a farm kid.
He's
huge and
beefy.
strong. And they show him 15 years later. Of course he's bigger. He's worked out for 15 years, like he's also, look, okay, we'll set the steroid thing aside. If he had just did what he did, he would have been bigger. I mean, I was bigger. When I was 21 compared to 35, I'd lifted a ton of weight, never put a steroid, knowingly, I never ever tried to put a steroid in my body ever. And I got pretty big, pretty strong. I could rack a lot of weight. And I wasn't trying to even get to the top of the mountain there, but I was just a big, strong guy, And so I'm not saying steroids don't have an impact, but we don't know what that is. We saw Ozzie Canseco and Jose Canseco have completely different levels of what peak was, right? And these guys are genetically the same person. So when I think about the steroid era, I'm just like, let's just call it the expansion era. the opening of the digital age, all these advantages that came down, the strike zone change, all that stuff goes into the milieu of, you know, what. And by the way, Jason, what's performance enhancing? If I take a dead dude's knee ligament and stick it in my knee, is that performance enhancing? Because the guy back in 1962 couldn't do that. If I get Tommy John surgery and go back on the mound, is that performance enhancing? If I get a rib pulled out of my rib cage so that I can have thoracic outlet surgery so my hand isn't numb from pitching, is that performance enhancing? If I get a drill and I do microfracture on my hip like A-Rod did, is that performance enhancing? I would say so. So we have this weird barrier on, and I'm not justifying doing steroids, but I'm saying that whatever the impact is, it's a lot smaller than we're allowing. And I don't think it's fair to call it the steroid era. We should call it just, whatever, the expansion era, whatever it's going to be, because there are so many factors. And by the way, when you take steroids, you don't have like a professional doctor doing it. He's like got some guy at the gym and you blow out your triceps tendon like Barry Bonds did. Well, that's also the negative cost of steroids. It's like you can overdo it. And the thing we talked with Tim, like would Jose Canseco have been as crazy in the late 80s if he wasn't taking steroids? Because you remember this, he did some crazy stuff. He couldn't drive a car in a straight line.
Yeah,
he couldn't
scratch his back
in a fight with Esther, his wife. Mm-hmm. All that goes into the pile. Like, what's the negative impact of steroids?
I think everyone was less concerned about the steroids than the other. And I'm going to get to the other in a minute. Like performance enhancing drugs as opposed to performance enhancing procedures, right?
Right.
Is not there. Because I remember you guys were talking about like you still got to hit the ball at the end of the day, or someone's dunking, you still got to be able to get in the hoop. Yeah, volleyball, you still got to serve in. But steroids was not there for the in-game function. It's not like John Jones said, I'm gonna do performance. I'm gonna get a couple of picograms. So tonight I can kick Daniel Cormier in the head and win my title back. Right? No, the performance enhancing drugs was there to train your body to do these accurate things. So if you take baseball, for example, hundreds and hundreds of reps in the batting cage. The steroids allows you to do that longer. The steroids allows you to do that stronger. And the steroids also allows you the recovery period. So when that moment comes, it looks like your performance is enhanced. Okay. So now, here's the cool thing. And you're going to love this. This is why I think no one cares except for one reason. Andy Pettit used steroids. No one cares. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens, I don't know if he will or won't, but he belongs in the Hall of Fames. Think about all of the people that did it and that are in the Hall of Fame and who didn't. What people have a problem with, get ready to laugh. Just be honest. Just be honest. Chael Sonnen once said, because he got caught using steroids, and they're like, so why did you use performance enhancing drugs? He's like, I used performance enhancing drugs to enhance my performance. Why do you think I took it, right? Do you think I'm going to take something that's going to diminish my performance? Has anyone ever been tested for diminishing performance drugs? No. And that's what the people appreciate. When you get caught, there's two things you can do. You can hide until stuff settles down, or just come up on Front Street and said, yeah, I did it to enhance my performance. But when you start saying, no, I didn't do it, or no, this is hard, there's the value of hard work, or like Lance Armstrong did. Lance Armstrong literally ended careers of people, journalists who were trying to do their job, only to go on Oprah and be like, yeah, I did it. Man, get out of here. Man, miss me with that. So I think I speak for both of us that I think sometimes when you want to recover from something, you see, you use something, it feels good, and you want to use it again because you're like, wow, this is great because I get to recover and I get to do my sport better. Everybody understands that. But the whole stop lying. Stop. I mean, chill with that. That's why Chael Sonnen is kind of like my hero. I did it to enhance my performance.
Yeah. It's funny. When I think about Chael Sonnen, the thing I think about is the difference between greatness, like Hall of Fame greatness, and victory and defeat. Mm-hmm. If you want to look at it from one perspective, when he fought John Jones, he won that fight. If the referee had looked down and saw that dislocated, broken toe that Jones had, that's it. He
Yeah.
wins that fight
Jones didn't even
because,
know.
yeah, right. You saw it on TV. You're like, what is going on with his toe?
He said,
And
"Oh
you know, like,
God."
yeah, like, hey, you can't continue that fight. And it was luckily over like seconds later. But anything could happen. Like if he kicks him and that toe snaps, anything happens. Like that's not what they're about. And so, from that point of view, he had TKO'd him, but just no one caught it. But if anybody had, that would have been crazy. Like that's the difference sometimes between winning and losing. And for sure, Sonnen wasn't as good a fighter as John Jones was, but he had at that moment in time, if one set of eyes, the right set of eyes, had seen that, fight over.
Your ref would have been like, "Stop. Nope,
Yep.
we're done."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with
yeah.
Chuck Liddell and Rich Franklin. Rich Franklin knocked out Chuck Liddell, but what a lot of people didn't know is 10 seconds before that KO, Rich Franklin broke his arm blocking a head kick. And if that round was done, and then the corner man comes, fights over, broken arm, fights over. So you're right, that's wild. And Chael's intriguing too. Sorry, go ahead.
I had Stitched around the show, and he was talking about his job. And like when we think about Cutman, you think that they're there
You had
to cheat,
Stitch?
and like he does that thing on Rocky, like when he's like, he's like, no, he's like, that's not what I do. Like if it's over, it's over, and I have no problem saying it. And when these guys are wired to go farther, I have to say to them, it's over, and protect those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're not in the lather of being in a fight, man, they love Stitch for that because they know they have to walk around 40 years later. Like it's not like the olden days. And so they look at Stitch like a dad who's going to let them go out and whip as much ass as they can. And if they need his help to get them one more round, he's going to give it to them. But if they're done, he's also going to be like, you're done. And he has so much respect in that industry, whether it's MMA or boxing, that if he says it's done, that is it. It's done. He won't let, and nobody else will let that fight go on anymore. It's amazing. It makes me emotional a little bit thinking about the responsibility and the respect that goes with that. When these guys are like, I won't have anybody else in my ring except for Stitch because I want him to look out for me when I no longer can look out for myself. But also know that, yeah, you got one more. Go get him.
Yes,
and to know that, man.
Stitch, and I think I'm going to become emotional too because he, from a Colder perspective, he's been in enough fights and worked with enough fighters to know their threshold as well, right?
Yeah.
Like they're if it's, I guess I'm trying to give an example of someone who's just made of granite, like Robbie Lawler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that moment where him and like Rory McDonald had that stare down the fourth round. It looked like neither one was ready. Like it was weird because any corner man or anyone working would have made a decision. Like if you just saw Robbie Lawler for the first time, you're not going to let that fight go on. So Stitch knew thresholds, and at the same time knew, how to take care of his fighters. And that's where the cold part goes away and the warm part comes in because he gets paid to do it, but but the caring is free of charge, right? He cares for free.
Yeah.
And we both know that he's called Stitch, and you remember for a reason because not everybody can do that job. Like our guy who was commentating, our guy Neverett, Neverett. How do you pronounce it?
I say Tim Neverett. That's what he says. Yeah.
Listen, there's no two Tim Neveretts. There's no two Tims. There's no to him, and though there are people that he deflects to and has his own GOAT list, he knows when it's said and done, he's going to be where he belongs. In my sport, like I'm not an announcer, I'm a broadcaster, but I did some announcing this year. There's a guy named Geeter who I think called the Lakers games. That guy's the GOAT in beach volleyball. And I only started doing announcing last year because my degree's in theater performance. And when you're a theater performer, you think you can do whatever you want. And now I'm in that conversation with like all the other good announcers, but I'm not stupid. I know who my GOAT is, but I know, it's just, I don't know. I think the common denominator I was trying to associate this was just loving your job, having respect for the people in whom you're calling and who you're cornering, and we just use that rising tide to lift all ships, right? No matter who the boat
Yeah.
is, no matter who
You
the
think
boat is.
I've had a lot of incredible people on my show. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
I
actually, I got a
saw
really good compliment the other
savage
day on
list,
X from
dude.
this guy named Michael Casper, who does a lot of
Hmm.
stats. And I had him on the show because I want him to talk about stats in a way that we can understand baseball better, and not just go nerds. And he's nerdy as hell, right? But if you give him the microphone, he can talk. And he's like, I just realized I see all these people that Pete has on his show. Terrorism experts, pizza spy. We also have, this other kind of person over here, Tim Neverett's on the show. And he's like, and then he has me. Man, I love that about what we get to do is you can have Michael Casper be on the show and let Michael Casper shine bright. But you can also have Tim Neverett. And by the way, Tim Neverett doesn't have to say yes to me. He doesn't. He doesn't have to. He's already doing stuff. So he does that out of his own sense of service or whatever it is, because Tim doesn't know me. I know a bunch of Dodger people, but Tim doesn't know me. I mean, now we'll be a little more acquainted. But in this world, we get to interact and put something together and blow people away. I mean, we get to regularly, because of what we do, we get to regularly blow people's minds. I had my mind blown today by this guy talking about credit cards and how to not have to pay the bill. And I was like, are you serious? This is really real. I've been having my mind blown over and over again. And I'm just desperate to share these kind of things with people so that Michael can get the light. Tim can get the. And if you don't listen to the radio call for the Dodgers, you probably don't know who Tim Neverett is. But here he is, national grade radio guy. Sometimes the TV guy when he fills in for whoever. I know Boog Sciambi, and I say I know him. We're acquainted. And maybe someday he'll come on the show. He's so busy, I don't know. But if I had Boog Sciambi on my show, nobody should be surprised because we've already agreed that he's going to do it. It's just a matter of when. That's because we have these ridiculous shows, and I don't know about you, but I've applied the principles from being a spy, from the stuff I learned from the Army and the stuff I learned from life, into building this show that is. I call it. It's ridiculous to have all this success and happiness and enrichment from what really amounts to a world-class hobby. I mean, I make money doing my show, not enough, but it's everything else that comes with it where I'm like, I get to do this. I get to go to these people's homes or sit in my trailer here and talk to you. And it's life-changing in the best kind of way. And I'm old enough now to appreciate that every time I get to do one of these, it really is a unique thing. And I really try to mentally slow down and just enjoy like our interaction. I haven't talked about Darmstadt like that and expressed those. I'm not talking about combat. I'm talking
Wasn't
about
that wild?
the internal struggle. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's great to be able to talk about these things to let some other kid know, like, hey, you're hustling and you're not sure it will work out. You are squeezing oranges. You are getting orange juice. These guys don't want your orange juice. Keep making orange juice because someone's going to recognize that quality. They're going to put you to work in a way that you need. They believe in you, and sometimes you have to just continue to believe in yourself that you're doing the right thing and go in the right direction.
What episode are you
Just
up to
keep
right
going.
now?
Oh my gosh, I quit counting at 2000.
Oh, yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
to me, I always think the podcast age, like, how some people have like their prime age in athletics, like for indoor volleyball, I would say it's 27. For beach volleyball,
Yeah.
it's more like 35, right? Because when it comes to sports, it comes to accumulating an IQ where you're smarter than everybody, but you still need the
Yeah.
body to do something about it. So the the better you take care of your body, the more you you cement your status amongst the elite. Like Brady, did it because he took care of himself, took care of his nutrition.
Yeah.
And he wasn't anyone we would consider a strong arm quarterback or a multi-talented guy or a guy that can use his legs. He just
Yeah.
out techniqued you to death and took your lunch money, right? So, and this is
Right.
coming. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I ain't got no love for the Patriots, but I
Yeah.
feel like Tom Brady's my boyfriend.
And you're a hater.
I am. Dude, if you could walk on water, I'll probably say it's because you can't swim. So let's just put it that
Yeah,
way.
so for you to appreciate, it's easy to hate Tom Brady,
Yeah.
but he forced me like, all right, it's not just 5, it's 6. You're the best quarterback.
Yeah.
No one's better.
Do you know? Do you know what they called me at Seaside? They put me on a stage in Seaside,
Uh-huh.
Oregon. This huge stage. They put a microphone in my hand, and you know what happened next, right? But the other
Yeah.
announcer kept calling me Hater Jay, and it stuck. So now,
Yeah.
whenever the handful of times I get to actually MC or announce, I'm called Hater Jay. But
That's hilarious.
I really love commentating. I really love doing play by play. I really love doing color, for indoor and beach. It's right now it's predominantly beach because I'm in Hermosa. You're in Orange County,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
South Bay culture. I did call
Yeah.
LMU against UNLV last year for indoor though. That was fun, for ESPN, and that was my
That's
ESPN
cool,
indoor
man.
debut. Um,
Can you believe it? You get to do that?
yeah.
Like, that's
I
crazy.
still can't believe it. And all I was doing what you did. You get your jump wings, and as soon as you hit the ground, where's the rallying point? Anywhere
Yeah.
but here. You got to keep moving.
Right. Yeah.
It goes
Did
back
you
to the
think
military, doesn't it? You know?
when you were younger, did you think you'd play pro volleyball? Like, did you ever have an inkling that was a real thing for you?
No, because I was in an environment where I was told what I can and can't do, which
Right.
is something me and you before this podcast is done. And I got all damn day. We
Yeah.
maybe at the end of this podcast, we want to send a message to not
Yeah.
just kids, but just adults. I was
Yeah.
told, look, I grew up. My real father I never met. Okay, my mom was left with $1. She used that dollar to
Yeah.
go on welfare, to take the
Yeah.
train to go on welfare. Rode welfare for 3 years. Somehow came back from that, became a paralegal, got her undergrad degree in John Jay, criminal justice, right? Went to Fordham Law School, but was
Good
making
for
really good
her.
money. Got married a second
Yeah.
time. So now I got a stepfather who's an iron worker, right? So on weekends, I'm doing iron work with him. I learned how to read blueprints. I learned how to cut steel. So my first
Wow.
job, I'm 13 years old and I'm doing iron work for a side business called Mobile Weld, which is basically my dad and myself. So you have an
Uh-huh.
iron worker, you have a legal secretary. What, bruh? You want to be a
Yeah.
volleyball player? Get out of here. So
Yeah.
I've accepted this blue collar mentality where there were some things for some people, but those things weren't for me.
Right.
And how does the kid from Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn, even get in the volleyball, right? Like,
Right.
that's a whole nother story where maybe I'll be a guest on your podcast, but I can
No, you
say,
will for sure. But I
but
want to
I,
come to you in Hermosa
yeah,
Beach and sit down across from you, throw
yeah.
the
Oh,
cameras
I got
on.
the studio for it. Let's do it. And I
Yeah,
got a
let's
person
do
that
it.
texts the show, but he's not here today because me and you, I apologize. We caught each other on some not ready stuff. But I
Yeah.
have a guy that actually operates the camera switcher and pulls up
Yeah.
articles, and me and you can
I
have a
love
good
it,
time and
man.
just
It's
shoot
great.
shoot the shit.
Yeah, my mom was one of those moms where, like I know my birth dad now, and we're all part of a big family, which is crazy. But back then, growing up, like, she had to figure it out. And the dad that raised me, my Bob dad, he wasn't a great dad, but he was a great dad at times. Sometimes he was horrible and abusive, and other times you're like, hey, he's doing the right things. But he worked for a transit authority and he drove a bus, and then he managed the guys that drove the buses. That's it. That's the humblest job you can have. And he had a master's degree. He wanted to be a minister and could never figure it out with life and everything else. And so he was like this, disaffected, angry man. And my mom, she went out and got a degree. She worked at the phone company. She was an operator back when operator was a job.
Oh my
And
God! Wow.
and
Got to
so
deal with
yeah,
those
so guys
people.
like yeah, we weren't broke. We were never hungry, but that's because my folks did a great job of stretching things, and we were all right, but just barely. They went way too deep in debt. But my mom, she was one of those ladies from the women's lib era. It's like, I can do this. I can work and everything else. And I'm not supposed. There's a lot of degrees in my family, so the degree part was kind of expected, but volleyball, professional, anything. Like, I saw a European handball, and I'm like, where do I play that? I can play that
Not in
game. Like,
Brooklyn
sometimes
for
you just see
sure.
a game, yeah, and you're just like, I could do that game. I could do that because I got a good arm. I jump pretty good. I'm fast. I'm terrible at shooting a basketball, but I'm good at all the rest of basketball.
You
So
could guard, you could
I'm
rebound, right? Yeah.
Oh man, I was before people said, yeah, you got that dog in you. Like, that was me. There was a guy who went on I grew up with. We had a really, really, really good team right around my senior and the year after, a championship grade in California. And I played ball with all those guys, and I could play with them. I wasn't better, but I could play with them, and I could augment what they do. And this one guy named Lawrence went and played Division I ball, and he got a steal one day. We're just playing on the playground, and I ran after him. I don't care. I don't care if you put me on a poster. It doesn't matter because I'm going to get you, right? And this is kind of like my army problem. It was like, I'm going to get you, you know. And he said to me after he played Division One ball and everything else, and he wasn't all that great at Division One, but he got to go play that. He's like, man, you taught me something. He's there's always going to be a guy like you that's got a big motor, and he's always coming. And if I, for 1 second, ease up, you're going to be right there and you're going to pin me to the backboard. I never got him. I never got him. But that's because he had a guy like me behind him, chasing him. And I was good enough and I respected their game and that, that all the things that you do on a basketball court. But that was so cool to have someone who was a way better athlete than me say, hey, you taught me something
Respect.
about the
Yeah.
game. Yeah, man.
hmm
I loved it.
but I also think that's how greatness is achieved. Like I tell like I coach adults and juniors, but I give
Yeah.
kids of all ages the same message, and I tell them that greatness is man's failure in his pursuit of perfection. And
Yeah.
I want to repeat that greatness is achieved when we pursue perfection and fail, because we're
Yeah.
now not perfect, but we wound up we wound up great. And that's
Yeah.
okay. And
Yeah.
dude, that's okay too.
It
What's
is.
wrong with
It
being
is.
great? you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not all of my 2000 something episodes, and I'm not hyping my show. I'm just saying, like, that's a big number. Not all of them are home runs. There's a lot of dribblers up the middle, but you know what? They're base hits, and I'll
Was
take them. Some of the shows are messed up, and I'm like, damn it, the technology, damn it, the Pete, whatever it was, didn't do it. But when you look at that mountain of work, there's a lot of really good stuff in that mountain, you know?
was there an inciting incident that led you the direction that you want to go where you just took off? Like, for example, some people have to fall off the cliff
Yeah,
for them to whatever, right? Some people have to get thrown in the deep end and they're either going to swim or they're going to drown. And those are two separate things, even though they're disguised as one. Like for me,
yeah,
like I got kicked out of the house when I was 18. I was sleeping on trains for like 7 months.
right.
Some of the
Yeah,
scariest moment of my life. But believe it or not, that wasn't my inciting incident that turned everything around. The army actually helped me understand how to buff that. The army taught me how to push myself physically. Like they squeezed my head and I could fold or I could focus. But for me, theater school turned all that around because the theater worked on the muscles between your ears. Because in order to
yeah,
play a character, you have to know yourself first, and you have to separate yourself from what you want the character to be in. And some of the things you had to do in theater class, which is movement for general ensemble, chakra stuff, speak voice and speech for 3 years, being moment to moment. So theater turned that around for me. And whenever someone
yeah,
asks me what makes you such a great podcaster or what makes you a good coach, I'm like, my degree in theater performance. They're like, get the out of here,
sure.
degree in
Yeah.
theater. So you're good in theater, so you're a good coach. So for my question to you, was there a single inciting incident that created this reversal or gave you the momentum to get to where you got to go, or was it a series of things? I hope I'm shaping that question the right way
Yeah,
because
no,
I just came
yeah.
up
So
with
for
that.
me, it's a series of things because combat teaches you and it gives you wisdom. When you have a podcast, man, you if you choose to, gather wisdom every day, And so I have all this wisdom in my head because the thing I've learned about life is, and I'm not the oldest guy on the rope, but I'm 55. I've been around the block a number of times. Is life will give you the same lesson in shittier versions of it until you finally just figure it out. And I like to say, like, I've just kind of trimmed away a lot of the mistakes. I got a control of my ego. I have an ego. And when it comes out, and like, oh, there it is. That thing's no good for me. And you got to have an ego to live and survive and all that and be proud of stuff. But like I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Actually, I just got promoted today. I'm a white belt plus one stripe.
Let's do
And
it. Let's go.
yeah, let's do it, right? And my body can only do so much. You must have an old volleyball body. It's like, oh man, I can't go crazy like I used to. So I can't go crazy like I used to. But my ego sneaks out in my roles. And I'm like, oh, there you are. Hey, knock that off. Quit trying to push this guy off your chest. Use the techniques. Create space with your hips. See with your legs. And that's my wisdom from all these other things coming through going, it's all right to suck. I don't care if I ever get promoted, honestly, because it doesn't matter to me. It actually surprised me today when they promoted me. And it's just on a schedule. I've been going. I'm going to get promoted. I know that. But I'm not worried about that. I just like, can I get to 15 classes a month? Well, probably not. Can I get to 10? Yeah. Okay, so somewhere 10 to 15 is what I want to try to do. Can I start to sneak in some other training and do some rowing or go for a swim? Okay, yeah. If I can just do that, man, I'm going to be investing in my body. And look, we're at an age where we got to keep moving because what we got left is going to be on us
Man, it's so
to
sneaky.
move,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And so for me, it's just a series of things. I learned so many things from the sheikhs and the warlords that I met and how to live life and how to see what actually matters. And so, yeah, for me, it's a series of just constant improvement so that my bonsai tree of life, it's just a stick now. I've cut off all the unnecessary stuff. I just have this stick that's healthy and strong, but there's just less mistakes. There's less errors. There's less arrogance. I mean, I was confident, but when you're confident, you're not good at metering it. That becomes arrogance. And so I'm sure that folks thought I was an arrogant dick a lot of time, but I was confident that I could do anything. And then I started making better choices on what I was going to do. And I didn't, like, there's all kinds of things that I get FOMO about when my friends are doing something exciting, but that's not my business. And I can take that and I can put that down and say, I'm not worried about that. I am worried about being great at podcasting because it gives me opportunities. And all I've got to do is focus on that and realize those opportunities and pour my passion into that. And now I get to do these things. Oh my God, I get to write screenplays. I get to work on movie projects because of my ridiculous show. Hell yeah. I've got enough on my plate that if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want you to do something, like, my plate's full, man. I mean, you're welcome to buy some space on my plate. And I don't mind asking for that because I know what I'm worth now. But all of that comes from all these moments that I learned in combat and being in the army and podcasting. I've learned so much from so many people. It's, I'm just a better person because of these things, these trials I've had to go through. Being in combat ain't gentle. In my kind of combat, where you got to leave the camp every day to go do your job, that's also it's not gentle on your body. It's not gentle on your soul. It's hard. But man, I'm a better person for it.
Hold on a second. There's a lot. I put my thumbs up. There's fireworks that comes. You can't see it, but the live version, there's like every time I put two thumbs up, there's like these fireworks that happen. It doesn't happen on our thing, but on the live stream,
Yeah.
YouTube is bugging out. I like that, but I like that. Well, first of all, I speak for both of us. Big up to all of the guests that picked up the phone and said yes, right? It takes a lot of testicular fortitude to say, hey, we're going to do this. And maybe you have an idea, or maybe you just want to have a forum where you and your friends could talk because that's how I started mine. I mean,
Yeah.
some people have a focus and they have a niche, and they have a singular a theme that they know that they're good at and they want to sell. And for them, good for you, go for it, right? And then there's some people that just it happens on its own. Like, I'm sure your intention and the way you started the podcast and the net result are not exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the genius of podcasting. But I think you'll agree with me. Big up to all of the guys. Like, you're talking about gold medalists, you're talking about Medal of Honor winners on your thing. Like, I've had a few gold medalists myself because of my wheelhouse. Like Dane
Yeah.
Blanton. He's the head coach of UCLA. He's a 2000 gold medalist who won Sydney. Couple of indoor guys. Riley Salmon, indoor guy, won 2008. He had a good story too. He was addicted to opioids. Technically died twice. Had to be resuscitated.
Jeez.
So he had a story. And I'm getting somewhere with this. What I'm trying to say is, no matter if the guest has a blue check next to his name, or if they're famous, or if they're not, I think the one thing that's given you podcast success is because you reject the notion that only the people that are the most well-known are the only ones that have interesting stories to tell. They have interesting stories to tell because there's no way you get to where you are in that moment to get to where they are without having a story or two. But geez, the stories we just told in between on this were people that no one even heard of. Like, no one's heard of Neverett. Neverett's a stud. Are you freaking kidding me? I had Sharif from Qatar on my podcast, and then the next episode I had one guy that just barely qualified for the Manhattan Beach Open, right? Both of them high levels, both in the top 3 percentile, but we both, if you watch sports, there's levels to both of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are podcasts for beach volleyball where they only interview the top players, and if that's their niche, right? The player, the podcast that the pros listen to, cool. Yeah, I personally think you're missing out. You're missing out on all of these beautiful minds, and the reason why I'm saying it this way, because I'm bouncing it back to you, because
Yeah.
I'm suggesting to you or suggesting to other podcasters out there. Sometimes you have to break rules, and sometimes you have to follow rules.
Right.
And I have a question for you, but if there's anything you'd like to add to that, because we're going to stay on this subject of podcasting.
Man, there's so much in that. It's hard to even like decide where to talk. What I will say is this: like, there's a couple mindsets that you can add into this. We were talking about greatness earlier. Here's the difference between Jason, myself, and someone who hasn't done what we're doing. And it doesn't have to be podcasting. Throw watercolors on paper. We, whatever it's going to be, just go try stuff. Like, that'll enrich your life. Just the we talk about, like, like the pursuit of happiness. By the way, what government has pursuit of happiness as one of their three columns of freedom, right? Like, that's so amazing that we get to do this. You don't have to
Amen.
catch it. You just got to chase it, right? And so I'm doing jujitsu, loving it, right? But I've got to do it in a very controlled fashion because my back, my knee, my leg, like all these things, right? But I'm enjoying the pursuit of it in a way that I couldn't have done when I was younger, when it would have been like all go, go, go. And now I can appreciate what it means to put my knee to my elbow and twist, and then what that does for, like, so whatever it is that you're going to pursue, pursue it and just continue to get better. I use swimming all the time when I talk about podcasting, or lifting weights. Like, if you saw, a world-class beach volleyball player who's 45 years old, still out there in the circuit, still playing, right? And they're not a name, but they've built this 20 plus year career doing this. Well, you can't become that person. What you have to do is you got to start your own journey on beach volleyball and figure out what kind of player. That person knows exactly what they do. They know when to do it, how to do it. They know when to slow down, when to go fast. They know all of that now. And you can't be that person. If you look at podcasting the same way, like, you can't be me. You can't have 2,000 episodes. You can't start 10 years ago before the whole podcast boom blew up. But you can go out and get in the pool every day and swim laps. And if it turns out you love swimming laps, just keep swimming laps. And you will figure out what's going. And when you're great at that, the opportunities will find you, because there's
Amen.
no shortage of greatness. It's like love. You could always lean on love. And if you love something too much, guess what? You're just in love with something. There's no limit to it. Greatness is the same thing. There's always great ideas. It's what you do with it. Can you get in the pool? Can you do the laps so that you can go do this next thing? I just look, I've done mixed martial arts, off and on throughout my adult life. And I'm considering at 55 years old going and competing, and old 55, because I'll be 56 in January. So in November, I might compete as a white belt in a tournament. I don't care if I lose. I just want to do it for the experience. I may not, because my body's beat up and it may not be the wise thing to do. But I'm going to go do that. And in our lifetime now, like when we were kids, that wasn't possible for old dudes to go out and do stuff like this. But it is possible now. I go out, my friend, our podcast launched because John and I started it together. He's a Guamanian, by the way, not tall, not a volleyball player, but he is a fantastic drummer. But he had not taken up drumming for 20 plus years. And because of our podcast, he grabbed the sticks one night. I was there when it happened, and he got back in, and he's in like 5 bands now. And on
Jeez,
his little
nice.
hunk of town, First Street, man, he kills it. He's like the king of that town, even more so than he was before. And it's amazing to see, like, okay, he's not really a podcaster anymore. He's done a bazillion episodes, and he's always welcome on the show, and we'll be doing a show next week. But what he is he's a fantastic drummer who gets to play with his legends and icons, and he's all it's in this perfect world that he's created, all because of a podcast. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, this doesn't have to be the end of it. This can just be the vehicle that launches you into volleyball announcing or whatever it's going to be. Like, the podcast is a machine that creates opportunities. And if you invest your time, and if you like it enough to invest your time and effort into it, keep going, because great things will come from it.
Amen. By the way, here's Phil Dahlhauser. He's
Oh yeah.
45 years old, because
There you go.
you're making an example of a 45-year-old volleyball player. And
Yeah.
this guy, the AVP has a tour, but they also have a league. And it's the
Hmm.
second season of the league, and this guy just won the league championship. in Chicago.
Yeah.
Right now, this guy who's going to retire this year, his name is Phil Dahlhauser. He unretired because he knows that playing in the league is limited games per week. It's only a couple of matches, and at his age, he believes he can sustain that. So he was on his Kobe farewell tour, and then decided to unretire. And you're right, and there are players that have to reinvent their game to stay in, and in many ways, he reinvented his. But at the end of the day, wow, big up to this dude. And he's not interested in going to the Olympics anymore. He's already won a gold medal in 2008. So he's not interested in like FIVB international championships. He has his own volleyball clinic thing in Florida. He's spending time with his family, and I supported it. And I'm going to jump off the volleyball thing because I want to stay on the podcast. I supported him doing this because whether you're playing in a tour or in a league, for example, the tour, the main draw is 16 teams. So if you win twice on Friday, win once on Saturday, you're automatically in the semis for Sunday. So double elimination, if you lose, you might have to play 9 matches, and I don't think he wants to do that. But in his mind, like, wait, I just played twice on Friday, once on Saturday. The worst thing that can happen is I'm in the semis. And that is a sustainable thing as long as he keeps his head above water. And the league, he plays 1 match on Saturday, 2 out of 3, 1 match on Sunday. 45, he can do that. And as 55-year-olds, I'm speaking for both of us. If I play 4 games and nothing hurts, that's a win. Because the reason why things hurt in the first place is because we always say we want to go one more.
Right.
And maybe that's more advice to you, and not let our ego identity get the best of us. But I consider that
sometimes you look at a ball and be like, that one's good. You're gonna have that. That's your point.
Yep.
Because I'm not gonna burst and dive. Like I'm not, because I have 2 more games to play.
Right.
And that you got me on that point.
Yep.
But let's see you do it again.
Well, Todd,
because.
Yeah, Todd Rogers.
That's it.
Well, Phil's partner Todd, in his last year, he said he would psychologically shave a foot off of each side of the court, and if you can hit that, you got him, and if you can't, you don't. And it made his game even better because now you had to be perfect to beat him. And if anything less than perfect, he was going to win. So it was in that respect, it was a sustainable career because it sounds like a fortune cookie. Save your strength for the battles you can win, right?
Yeah, right.
That's how fortune cookies are made, though, right?
You got that point. But I'm not going to be messed up the rest of the match, and I'm still going to be hard to beat, right? And just knowing the motion of the game, whatever the game is, knowing a conversation and how conversations flow. And that comes from experience. I don't really do any prep for my shows. I love to read the books when I can and all that, but I've done all the interviews. I was a spy, damn it. I learned how to talk to people. And so I just can sit down and have the conversation because I know the flow of words, and I know how to slow down. I know how to shut up, all the things that you need to do when you run a show. And that comes when you're 45 and you've got 10,000 serves behind you or whatever it is. You just know the pace of the game. And you don't have to just run around. It's like playing racquetball when you first start. You chase the ball a lot until you learn to stand in the middle, react, and just with 1 or 2 steps, that's it. And you stop chasing the ball. Well, when you're 45, you know exactly where to be, and you're economical. You've got elegance in your game. There's very few guys that use a motor to get around at 45. Like, you have to learn the gaps and you have to know where to already be. Otherwise, they got you, and then you move on to the next thing.
I don't know if you ever played Grand Theft Auto or GTA, but GTA, for people listening, you get in the car and you turn on the radio station, and the radio stations reflect the timeline of the storyline of the game. So San Andreas was 1992 Los Angeles, right? And like Grand Theft Auto 4 was like 2008, the 5 boroughs or the 4 boroughs, because New Yorkers don't like Staten Island. Yuck. We hate Staten Island so much. The video game had Hoboken, New Jersey as the 5th borough, not even Staten Island. No, but one of the commercials was, and it's related to this, The guy said, my whole life I thought something was wrong with me, like I was gay or transgender. But having tried both of those things, I realized that wasn't it. And then it hit me. I hate walking. That's why I got the motorized power scooter. And when you said that, for some reason, that was one of the things that kind of made me laugh. And it was great because that timeline, that's when the power scooters came out. And like people just didn't want to walk. All right, look, back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Podcast, when you create podcasts, there's a whole bunch of people that have a bunch of podcast rules, podcast no-nos, and podcasts like do's and don'ts, and how to succeed as a podcaster. Give me an example of a rule you're like, no, I'm not going to follow that rule. For example, my rule was, everyone was telling me your podcast can't be longer than 30 minutes. 30 minutes. If it's longer than 30 minutes, nope, you lose the attention of the audience. And I'm like, if you're disinteresting, So my first rule was like, I wasn't going to let time constraints, as you can see by this, right? I was not going to let time constraints dictate the success or failure of my podcast. Give me an example of one of the podcast rules. Go ahead. What was the first one that came to your mind?
Well, the first one that came to my mind is I don't do workflows, because I don't need someone to give me more work in the work that I'm doing. It's just like all about my plate being full. No, thanks. I don't need you to optimize my work. And so I don't worry about that. Also, by the way, I don't care if anybody else does this stuff, but I do my own calendar. And if you and I are going to book something, I'm going to book it with you because I want things to be more human, not less. I don't want to go be your secretary and find the date that works for you and have to follow. I don't want to do all that. I want to run my own calendar. I'm glad to send you my invite, but I'm not going to do that. So I don't do workflows, because here's what workflows are for me is someone giving me work that I already wasn't doing and then tell me how much time they're saving me by doing work that I wasn't already doing. Like that doesn't work for me. I know it works for other people. That's great. So that's one thing. The other thing is and this is just a piece of advice. This is not necessarily like a thing to know, but I don't borrow trouble. I don't borrow no. I let those things come at their own, and I can take no. It's not a problem. So when I say I'm going to go get Ice Cube on my show, and I haven't had him on my show, but he's someone I'm chasing, I don't assume he'll say no. I just assume he'll say yes if he's a man who says yes to things. And that's it. Like if you go, oh, I could never have Ice Cube on your show. Well, you're right. You can't. Just ask. And people all the time, how do you get people on your show like that? How do you get Tim Neverett? I asked. And then I did my job and I followed up. And it took a while to get him on the show. He said yes a long time ago, but it just takes a while. And so I don't borrow no. I don't need help. If I want to shine the light on somebody, like there's someone I sort of know from Facebook from my hometown. And she saw that I had Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie on my show. And she's become a pretty good acquaintance of mine. And so I have her on a couple times a year, maybe. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, do you want to talk to her? She's like, wait, what? And so I always try to blow someone's mind. I don't care if they have experience on the mic or not. That's my job. That's my job to set them up and run the show and guide it. And so if I can, and she's willing to, I'm going to help Allison blow her mind. That's good for Allison. It's good for my show. It's good for my friend. It's good for me. And so I don't worry about these conventions where you're supposed to do things. I do go to people's homes or wherever they want to meet and do my show because person-to-person stuff works better. I don't care about niches. Life is not a niche. And I illustrate life. That's what I do. And so if you want a niche, because that's great, but I'm not going to do that. And so I look for what's interesting. And sometimes what's interesting is talking to one of my friends. And I don't care if you want to hear about that. I want to love my friend. I want to have a chance to chat with them about the old days. We'll get to someone famous in a minute, but this conversation's about me and my friend. And if you like what we're talking, and we're going to be entertaining if you want it to be. If you sat next to us in a bar, you'd be entertained. So just be entertained. I don't worry about what the audience needs. I don't worry about being on a specific time. You know, I have like a pace, but it's all about my pace and when I want to do it. I did a show at 7 a.m. this morning right after my workout. And it was great. I haven't published it. I'll publish that show later on. I don't worry about stuff that doesn't matter. So whether I pre-record or go live or whatever, as long as I turn that red light on and I put a show out, I'm going to be all right. And even if the show sucks, guess what? Here comes another one down the pipe. It's not going to suck.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate that because finding what's unique to yourself. And it can't be it doesn't have to be a singular perspective. It could be multiple things that are unique.
Sure.
Sometimes those things happen on their own in the podcast, and there's some things where you just have a belief in yourself, and you stay at it, and then at some point people realize that. And I appreciate that you don't get caught in the catch 22 thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I really hate as an actor where you have professors that say you have to do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. And then when you do everything that's asked to them, when you get on the other end of that, they're the same person that says what makes you different from everybody else. And I'm just like, why don't you kiss my ass? You just told me to do it this way. Only
Yeah.
in the end to say I'm not different. And the same thing applies to podcasting. If they have all these rules to do it this way, to do it that way, to do it this way, and then when you're
Yeah.
not successful, these are the same people that say you haven't done anything to separate yourself from the rest. And the only way to
Yeah.
separate yourself from the rest is maybe to follow some rules, but at the same time you have to break a few. And like you
Yeah.
said, it takes maybe an idea, or maybe it just takes mental acumen, or as I said before, testicular fortitude, right? It might be the
Yeah.
muscles between your ears and the grapefruits between your legs. So yeah, and wow, again, I only meant to listen to one episode of your podcast, like the last couple of nights. I
Such
listened
an
to
honor, man.
four.
Thank you.
I listened to four episodes in a
Yeah.
12-hour period because I was neurologically, I was like, all right. And I
Yeah.
watched you interact with four different guests of four different complete walks of life.
Yeah.
I'm on 250 right now, 258. You're on 2058.
Yeah. Something. Yeah. Some
But I
number
did
out
have
there.
another
Yeah.
episode. I had something called Sports Debate Tuesday, where I would cover
Yeah.
football, mixed martial arts, just those two, and I have 100 episodes of that too. Which I don't know, that wasn't my direction,
Incredible.
but I had fun with that as well. At the
Yeah.
end of this podcast, I really want to save time in case any of us have a hard stop. I want us to tell a fun military rib story. So store that in your chamber now, like a prank we pulled on someone, because Veterans Day, I'm having an episode that's strictly dedicated to veterans, and it's called Veteran Stories. So veterans rib
Okay.
stories or veterans or whatever. So I'm doing 10-minute slots on November 11th. And I just ran into you. Maybe you come in studio, and we're doing call-ins. So I have friends. We have hundreds of friends that are veterans. So I'm doing schedule time, like 10-minute call-ins. But maybe you
Yeah.
can, I don't know, maybe you could drive in and co-host that with me November on Veterans Day. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
Yeah. I'll do it. If you want me to come, I'll go. I'll do it. I'll commit to that
that
right
would
now.
be,
If you want,
yes. How about that?
okay.
100%.
We'll work on that.
My wife,
We'll
I
work on that.
actually
Okay.
still got the jacket. The jacket fits me. It still fits me, by the way. The green, like the great,
Not mine.
the Class A's. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, the first thing that goes is the neck, man. You just can't, right?
Oh man. Man, my neck. Yeah, my neck got big when I became a man. Man,
Yeah.
it just got. I don't know. When I was a kid, I had this long, skinny neck. Now I just got this like hammock. It's crazy.
Um,
Yeah. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk a little bit about Save the Brave. Talk to me
Okay.
about that. Now I'm gonna get all freaking serious. What is Save the Brave, and your relation or contribution to it? Walk me through what is Save the Brave.
So I don't work with Save the Brave anymore. We had, and I'm saying this in the kindest, happiest, best way ever. We wanted different things.
Oh, gotcha.
And what they do is they do jujitsu and fishing. And it's Marines. I'm an Army guy. I was brought in by my buddy Scott. And it just, I didn't necessarily gel with how those guys were. And so it was, we did a lot of work. And what Scott and I did, Scott did a lot, but Scott and I are both, his name is Scott Husing. You guys look him up. He's a pretty influential guy in the military space. He and I are guys that people call when someone dies, and we get that call. And so we try to work on trying to figure out how to help them, or, just to care. And so Scott calls me. He's like, my buddy I grew up with, we joined the military together. He drank himself the other day on purpose. And so I'm like, oh man, this is COVID, like the height of it, like
Yeah.
like April or something of COVID of 2020. And he's like, so the family's asked me, Scott talking, the family's asked me to come out and do the eulogy and be part of the funeral in South Carolina. I'm like, oh man, Scott's the kind of guy you want to do that. He's good with words. And I was like, well, I'm sorry that this all happened. How are you? And he's like, oh, I'm fine. I just shook it, because, it's dumb. It's stupid. He shouldn't have done it. He's been messed up for so long. Anyhow, long story short, Scott says to me, so what I'm going to do is hop on my motorcycle and I'm going to ride. He lives in Temecula. You know what Temecula is? Temecula is, it's halfway between San Diego and Orange County, everybody. And it's like when the desert starts,
Yeah,
basically.
it's like 2.5 hours from
And,
where I live. Hmm.
yeah. And, he's like, I'm just going to get my motorcycle and just ride east and, just kind of deal with this whole thing. And I'm like, well, you're an adorable little baby. Yeah, you get on your motorcycle and ride across that, but you're not doing that alone, man.
Yeah,
There's
good
no
luck with
way
that.
I'm going to let you do that by yourself. That's not how this happens. I'll be in my truck behind you. Do all the hard, and I call it veteran Ramadan. You do all the hard crap you want. Put yourself through whatever you want, but I'm going to be there because you need to have someone behind you making sure you're all right. I'll have cold drinks. I'll have ice in the bucket. I'll look out for you. I'll tell you to get off your damn bike and get in the truck and cool out, whatever it is, but I'm going to be there for you as you go on this journey. And he says to me, did we just invent something? And I'm like, I think we did.
Let's
And so that turned
go.
into a thing called the Ride for the Brave. And we started riding across the nation every year for 4 years. We didn't know we didn't know how long it was going to last. And it got super big. It also was super hard. It was like being deployed. Like, first year was just him and I. We had to do all of our own logistics ourselves. And I'm trying to do everything I can to make it not be his job to do logistics, but there was just too much stuff. So I'm on the phone, I'm calling, I'm moving boxes. We have t-shirts, we got all this stuff. We're like a circus. And we drove across, and then he drove back with me. He's like, I'm never driving all the way across and back again. Because he doesn't even have a windscreen, man. He's on a Harley, he's digging the full thing in the face. Like, it was crazy. And so we started doing that, and it got bigger, it got more expensive, but we met the most amazing people. And this is during COVID. We went out, and we weren't reckless. We did this thing sensibly, but um, people showed up. They told us their stories. They told us about their friends. They told us about their own problems. And when we did the ride in I guess it was 2022, my brother had passed away. He
Oh,
had taken his,
jeez.
and he's a
Wow.
veteran. And so,
Woo.
like, it's just like, man, this thing is relentless. And I would ask people, we'd have me do these little interviews, and I would say, are we getting better at this? And none of us knew that we were, but we were trying, we were doing what we could do. And it was amazing. When you go to people, they will come out. They'll show you up. They just want to know how to help. Show up, put some money in a bucket, support these dudes. Man, people did that left and right. They were desperate to do it. They would give us whatever they had. And sometimes they had weird that wasn't valuable, but they're like, I have 17 campgrounds. You guys can come and you can put whoever you want in there for this week or whatever. We'll find a time. And it was like so many opportunities. Like, we didn't have enough people to like realize all the opportunities, but we would meet people like gas stations and restaurants, and they were desperate to help. And here's the whole thing that you figure out with all this stuff. First off, the United States is a big, gorgeous nation. You get out and you go see it, and you're like, oh my
It's
God, this place is
God's
gorgeous.
country, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you meet people, and you're like, Americans are awesome. They are just great. One of the guys we met was he was an immigrant, and he become a truck driver. And we saw him at this we're way out in the middle of nowhere, right? And we're like, what in the heck are you hauling on this flatbed? He's like, oh, that's sections of the wall, Trump's wall. I'm like, what do you think about that? You're from another country. And he's like, man, I love it. I came here. I worked my ass off. Look at me. I got a truck. It's my own truck. I get paid. I got a government contract to haul metal for the United States. I get paid to do that. Man, you got to earn it to be here. It's the opportunities for everybody. And that's what it surprised the shit out of me. I didn't think he was going to say that. And he's like, no, I love it. I love the opportunity that I have. That's why I came here. And that's why it makes me mad when someone jumps in front of me in line. And so, and I don't care if he was telling the truth or I don't care. What I care is, like, I interacted with this person, and he changed how I saw a lot of that part of the world, because they were desperate to protect one another. And that's what I got out of Save the Brave, was a lot of hard work, a lot of camaraderie. I met wonderful people. And even though I don't work with Save the Brave every day, we all did this amazing thing together. And it was incredible. We met so many people. One night, Scott and I had my buddy John, the last year I did it, I had him fly out and meet me in Houston. And he went from Houston to New Orleans. That was the leg that day. And we got there and we did all the work. We were all exhausted, and it's hot, and like, we're several days into it, so it's getting hard. And at the end of the night, I say to John, like, we got to go over to Cafe Du Monde and have beignets and coffee. Because when are we all four, Scott, his girlfriend, myself, and John, when are we all here going to be here together like this? You know, and so we
Like
all took the
never.
time.
Yeah.
I call it, yeah, I call it night capping. I love to get a nightcap. It doesn't got to be an alcohol thing, but just get together and have so many of those moments when you talk later on. You're like, wait, which time was that? Oh, that was the time we went to Cafe Du Monde in the middle of the night after we were exhausted and should have gone to bed. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Like I just want to have so many, and that's how I like to enrich life, and that's what Save the Brave gave to me is opportunities to do these incredible things, meet these incredible people, find out that people do care about veterans. They want to put their hands in their pockets and pull out money, whether they bought us a tank of gas or whatever it was. They did what they could in that moment, and man, there were so many people. It was so impressive to see how Americans responded. And so when you get on, where's that damn phone? When you get on this thing and you hear that everybody hates you and you hate everybody else, get off this thing and go
Right.
meet those people. Go to Redondo Beach, go to Hermosa Beach, go to Laguna Beach, go to all those places and meet people. And they're all different and they're all okay.
I mean,
Just
Yeah.
let
I think
folks
the
be
organizational,
folks.
Sorry.
And that's it. I mean, that's my whole point with Save the Brave is folks are folks. And if you go out and let them, if you go out and see them where they're at, man, they're gonna want to host you, and you're gonna learn to be a good guest, and your life's gonna change when you do stuff like that. So just go out and do big things.
Yeah, and you know what? The value of just driving somewhere and just seeing God's country, right? Like I do not like to fly. Like if I'm going to New York, fine. Okay, you win, I'm gonna get on a plane. But you know, if I'm going to Aspen, it's 13 hours. I might do it straight up or I might
Yeah.
stop in Utah, you know, because
Right.
the Beaver, Utah, their ribs game is really good, you know. So I do that. There's a tournament called the Motherlode, and I drive to Aspen every year. I drive.
Yeah.
Well, if my wife wants to come, she flies because she's smart and I'm not. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, a seaside, that was a 16-hour trip. I did Sacramento. I have friends in
Sure.
Sacramento. We moved from New York to LA. We used 10 days to do it. Went to
Yeah.
Vegas, went to the Elvis Mansion, went to Grand Canyon. You know, just kind of went.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking left and right because I have a military story that I posted on Facebook, and I had political reactions, but I guess I'm just gonna have to save that for another day.
Okay.
Do you have a rib? It could be a short story or a long story, but we'll have more to come if you show up with the
Yeah, it's sort of an inside rib. It's a reverse rib. So there's a thing that happens, like what happened here, where you get sent on these errands and you don't know you're supposed to do what you're told, so you're trying to do what you're told, and it's quite often that there's a light version of this. So my buddy Brian, by the way, is 6'4", 260. If he does nothing, he's just a monster. And I'm, and he and I are both like the unit donkeys. We carry stuff, and so we're, both big strong guys. I'm like 6 foot and, you know, about 200 pounds no matter what I did back then. So anyhow, we get sent across over to Nathan Hale, which is on the backside of Cambrai Fritz Concern, and we have to go do some admin thing for doing something. I forget what it was, but we go over there and we climb up the stairs to the attic to where these personnel people are, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, you didn't blah 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 blah, whatever it was." And so now we had to walk all the way back across, and so we go back to our headquarters, grab the paper, fill the thing out, take it back across. We get back over there. And the lady's like, "Oh yeah, I should have done this too." And so we walk back across, because we want to be E4s, we want to do our job, we want to solve it, we don't need any help. And we come, and this lady had us like a sewing machine, chicka 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 chicka, back and forth several times, until finally Brian looks at her and says, "Staff Sergeant," he's huge, by the way, he's really, really, really big. Like, "You're messing with us. If you have something you want us to do, we're going to do it. But you sent us back to our headquarters three times, and that's making us look like fools. And you could have told us exactly what you needed. I'm sure you got to help us figure this out." Because she wanted to make our first sergeant come over and help us out, right? And we weren't going to go down that road.
No.
But she was going to make us do it. And so Brian gives her a different kind of rib. He looks at the beam that holds this old German barracks up,
No way.
and he just starts going like this. And he's hitting this thing. And I'm not kidding. It's terrifying. And he looks at the lady. He's like, "I'm not walking across this concern again to have you send us back over. And she's like, and he hasn't threatened her, but he is making a point. Plaster is now falling from the roof. And I'm just like, this is awesome. Because, our first sergeant, we had talked to him, like, he's like, she's messing with you. And so that kind of gave us license to stand up for ourselves. And she's like, all right, I'll take care of everything right now. But he was going to knock that building down one ham hook at a time. And she was, I was like, holy crap. And he's just so big and strong. He can just hit it like this. And it sounds like the entire building was shaking. And it was like, dust is falling from there. But and he's like, oh, I wouldn't hit that hard. And I'm like, yeah, I hope, because it seemed like you were trying to break your hand there. And he's like, I just wanted to have her have the impression that we were fed up. And if you would have seen her eyes, because, and I'll be really unfair to personnel clerks. Yeah. They are not the hard chargers, right? That's not what they do.
No, PLL clerks are not.
Yeah. Sometimes they're great. And they do. I'll change my battery here. Sometimes they're great and wonderful things happen. Other times they mess with you because it's the only time they can mess with people. And we just weren't going to have it anymore. And if I can get this, there it goes.
Boom, got it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. And so when you have someone that is interested in your running around and trying to rib you like that, you're like, okay, here's how we reverse the rib, and we just start back at him. And every time we back and saw people in that office again, it wasn't very often. We always knew that we now had the upper hand because we could just intimidate them, and they would back off. And Brian and I showing up, it's like the Blues Brothers show, and be like, oh, who are these guys? And so that's my reverse rib story. I hope you guys liked it.
Dude, that was great. And there'll be more to come. I have a rib about a guide on. I have a guide on story too that was I don't know, might even might even say rival yours. November 11th is a Tuesday. As we're winding down a little bit, actually I got a private lesson, I think at 3, but I got plenty of time. And I hope you do too. What was the last good book? What was the last good book you read?
The last book, well, right now I'm reading Hodger Gracie's book. I'm maybe going to have him on the show. He's one of the Gracie people. Wow. And he's one of probably the most successful of all the fighters. He's been a world champion a lot of times.
He was the pioneer. This is UFC 1.
Yeah, I mean,
UFC 1, UFC 2.
No, that was Hoist.
Oh, sorry, that was Hoist. No, Hodger.
Yeah. Hodger is the next generation.
And he's huge.
Yeah,
Hodger's a big dude.
He's huge. He's so big. Yeah. Yeah. And so I was reading his book, and that was one of the things that made me think, like, you know what, maybe I can still do this. Maybe I can be that 45-year-old volleyball player if I handle it great. And I gotta drop this guy's name. Anybody thinking about doing like a later life version of jiu-jitsu, go check out Rick Ellis's channel. It's called Art of Skill on YouTube.
Art of Skill, yeah.
And it's all mindset. And he's like, you don't have to take every role. By the way, you're the customer. So if you're like, hey, like I tell my, they do like a lot of these different drills to warm up and everything. I got to get my back loose. So I'm going to skip like half of them and then work on my back because it's just so tight, And like, I'm realizing now that I'm so old that I'm not warmed up until we're almost done. Right. And then I'm finally feeling loose, and it's been an hour, and I've gone after it. And so, anyhow, Hodger's book kind of unlocked it for me, but I get to read a lot of great books, man. There's all kinds of authors. I mean, you saw I had on, who did I have on yesterday? I forgot his name already.
Asman.
Asman. Yeah. Asman. Brian Asman. Yeah. So I want to read his books. There's so many great books out there just to take in, and it's wonderful. I'm reading another book by a psychologist who talks about influencing people, and that kind of goes right to my spy stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I use that technique. So I'm reading that book. I read a bunch of books. I probably read 30 books a year, maybe a little more. And sometimes I read portions of books. Yeah, I get in this job. It's a lot of books to read.
Look, I encourage everyone to read Laura Hildebrand's Unbroken. Unbroken was about the Lou Zamperini story about this guy whose plane crashed. He's in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, survives all of that, survives sharks, winds up in an island. The problem is the island's in Japan, so now he's a prisoner of war for multiple whatever. And all of these things were reason for him to be broken and to
Yeah.
whatever, succumb to being unalive. But just this story of bravery and just endurance and just kind of like what else you got was the track and field Rocky, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and military hero, and ran
Yeah.
well into his 90s, continued to run well into his 90s. Um,
Yeah.
if you like a book of interest, Matt Taibbi, who's on everybody's good person and bad person list, depending on who you're talking to, wrote a book
Yeah.
called Hate Inc. And it's right here. It's how up and down politics weaponizes left and right politics to hate each other. It's called Hate Inc. That's an encouraging read. And no matter how you feel about him, Dr. Anthony, RFK, the real Anthony Fauci, that reads like a novel. Now again, this I'm not trying to get into politics, but if you talk about like stories about timelines and chronology from the 80s to the 90s and how policy shaped the way we dictate, I guess, informed consent, and how that's taken the power away from the patient. Because when we grew up, the power belonged to the patient, right? Like, first of all, when we grew up, we didn't see a doctor unless your leg was broke, okay? So I understand the studies and diagnoses have gotten better because they've gotten sharper. But if you had an infection in your leg and the first doctor said you got to chop it off, you're going to see a second doctor. You're not just going to say, I'm going to follow the
Yeah.
science. I'm going to respect the science. No, you're going to do something called a second opinion, because that's called informed consent. So for the people who think I'm trying to be some Republican or Democrat, I'm not. I'm just giving you an interesting read because at the end of the day, the power belongs to the patient. So
Sure
what was
does,
the
man.
last good movie? What's your favorite sports movie that gets you like jacked or amped up? Like for me, I'll go Remember the Titans. I really, really like
Sure, that's
Denzel
great.
Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
One of the
who
first
doesn't love
integrated,
Rudy?
football programs.
Yeah. Rudy is always up there, even if it's kind of fake, the story's great.
Rudy!
Yeah. Love it. I love Rudy. Yeah. I love a lot. I'm making a sports movie. Have we talked about this? Did we talk about this earlier? No.
No.
Um, yeah. So this ridiculous podcast continues to bear fruit. And so I'm becoming a movie producer. I know movie producers. I know screenwriters now because of my show. I know people that make incredible stories that can't have the bridge. I'm becoming the bridge between the guys with the incredible stories and the ability to make movies. And so I've turned myself into a producer. And there was this fight in 1889. This is how far back this was. This is around the time, it's before Butch Cassidy and Sundance. And it's right after the gunfight at the OK Corral, right? This is a long time
Okay.
ago. And it's at the very dawn of prize fighting because it wasn't legal. And so in my hometown of Benicia, they had this fight, and it's one of the first big, great fights. They talked about this, Jason. They talked about this fight all the way into the '60s. They were still talking about it, and these guys have been dead for decades at this point, right? And so it was that impactful. They were all over the papers. Anytime there was a big fight, they were part of the fight world. And these two dudes, I would say they dropped gloves, but they had gloves on. And they went at it for 27 rounds. But that was like the fifth time they had fought because they're both from San Francisco. San Francisco used to be a fighting city, and people come from all over the world to fight there, partly because of these guys. And so they fight on this barge in the water in the bay in between. So in the Bay Area, you have the Bay, you have the Delta, and in between is where my hometown is, right? And so it's this body of water, and it's kind of between counties, and like we really don't know whose jurisdiction it is, and that's why they fought there. And these guys laced it up, bam, bam, and went at it for 27 rounds. And Jim Corbett, who ended up being the second lineal champion, heavyweight champion of the world, right? So he's the man. He's the first man to beat the man. And he and Joe Koinski, who kind of unlocked Jack Johnson as a premier fighter. He went and he whooped Jack Johnson, knocked him out. Then they got arrested and spent a month in jail. And Joe's like, look, you got to do this, not that. And so he taught him like the finishing. Jack could already fight, but he took some of the rough edges off, right? And so these guys get in the ring and they blast each other, and it's an incredible, incredible story. And so I'm hoping that the greatest sport movie that I ever watch is going to be this one. But hopefully, you get to make at some point in the next year or so. We'll get some cameras flicked on and do something incredible because this story is great. And all of the early fighters, it's insane how tough and how hard these guys were. I hope I get to show this world to everybody. We'll see how it goes. It's going to take a lot of hard work, a little bit of luck,
Well,
But
if you're looking for
today it seems like it's working.
well, if you're looking for a quick typecast for a coach, I happen to know a guy whose degrees in theater performance from the second ranked program in the country.
Man, if I could get you on
That's
screen in there
me.
somewhere, and there's all kinds of smaller spots, but any job acting is a good job. It's really a two-hander, this story. But yeah, I mean, we need guys to be do. These guys go to Marin, and they go to this barn, and they're going to fight. It's all a big secret. So Marin used to be the place where the rich people from San Francisco went to get away. It was like their Lake Tahoe. And so they would get on a boat, go across, and then horse and buggy up to wherever they were going to go. And so these guys were out there in the country clubs just training, you know, cue montage, right? Don't, so they are going to fight on this one day. And it's like, we're only going to have 6 dudes on each side. That's it. And then it blows up, and there's hundreds of people packed into this barn. And these guys start going at it. And the sheriff rides up, and he's like, hey, listen, you guys can't fight legally in this county. Go to another county and let me know where you're going to go, and I'll be there. But he wasn't against fighting. We just didn't want him having it going on in his county. And so this whole thing goes, yeah, it's an awesome, it's called The Fight to the Finish. You guys can get that book on Amazon, Fight to the Finish, by my buddy Ron Jackson. He writes incredible books. But man, I hope they let us make it. The town wants us to make it. California, the state wants us to make it. There's a bunch of people like, let us help you. So we just got to kind of graduate up the steps, get to here and get a hold of us, and we'll help you get to here, get to there. And then, so that's how it's going. And a good fight film, we love a good fight film. I mean, it's going to be so good. I
Amen.
just hope everything continues to go together.
Yeah, fighting's in our DNA, man. Right? You watch a
Yeah.
hockey game. What do they show a highlight? Do they show a highlight of the
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
or two guys beating the heck out of each other while the ref watches?
Right.
Who's your favorite comedian? Or first one? Not favorite. First one that came to your mind.
First one that came to mind, my buddy Jay Moore. We're good friends. He's pretty known, I mean, he's a national act, but comedians thing is like, you can say someone's name, you're like, who? But he's done TV, he's done movies. He was in Jerry Maguire. He's the other agent in Jerry Maguire.
Oh,
He's
got
Bob
you.
Sugar.
Yeah.
Right. You'll know who his wife is. Her name's Jeannie Buss.
Yeah.
She used to own the Lakers.
Yeah.
So
and used to
there's
used to
South Bay
date
people.
Olympic gold medalist Steve Timmons before Jackson. Yeah.
That's right.
A lot of people
That's
don't know
right.
that.
Yeah.
Steve, the guy with the spiky hair. Yeah.
Yeah.
She thought he
Yeah.
was a jerk the first time she met him, and
Well, he looks like a jerk.
Huh? Well, at the
He
time
looks
he
like
was.
a jerk.
Yeah.
He's got like resting jerk face, right? Because he's all tan and
Yeah.
handsome and muscly and has that punky haircut. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course that guy's a jerk. I get that.
I
Yeah,
used to.
no, absolutely.
Let me tell you something. He was my inspiration for volleyball. I wanted to be that guy, and this is this is an afro under this, so it's not really possible to spike up my hair
But
like
you're
his.
6'9" with
but
the
I
fro.
but I did try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think of comedians. I think of Dave Chappelle because, to me, there's a rule. Once you fail at keeping your oath to the office of comedy, you cease to be funny. And anytime a comedian doesn't have a set of rules for people he likes and people he doesn't, he will always remain funny. Jimmy Dore, a comedian. I just saw him in Hermosa Beach actually, just last week. He's one of those guys. He's into politics, but he doesn't have a rule. He doesn't have rules for people he likes it and he doesn't. Chappelle's like that. Anyone can get it. Equal opportunity kicker, right? I go back to Richard Pryor, very much like that.
Sure.
Eddie Murphy, delirious, more delirious than Raw. I liked him.
Mm-hmm.
George Carlin.
I saw Chappelle at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh,
And it was incredible.
Isn't he?
And that he had Jimmy Dore. He
Yep.
had a guy with an Arabic name. You'll know his name, but pretty dang successful. He opened, and then Jimmy Dore came out. And like Jon Stewart, right? Some people are against Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart in a big crowd, he's fine, man.
He's
that guy
hilarious.
was funny. Yeah. And then who's the guy? Who's the black dude from Saturday Night Live who does the news? Shay. What's his last name?
From the Midnight Report or whatever that was. Yeah, I forgot what that was.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
He was awesome. He was awesome. And so you might think like he's this hard-leaning lefty liberal guy, but you put him in a nightclub, it's going to be funny to everybody, and so it was a great time. And then I really respect Dave Chappelle's game because he's smart on top of like the fact that he's a comedian. And when he was talking about like some of the trans stuff in the community coming after him, and he said some stuff that, like, if you don't know the inside, like, he's like, I will not be summoned, right? This goes back to like
I really love
the
that.
Catholics and the Protestants, right? And when the Catholic Church was getting mad at Martin Luther, he's like, I'm not belong to you. I'm not coming to you.
Yeah.
So you can what? Point at me? I read the book in the right language and told you what was wrong with your book. That's not my fault. I will not be summoned, is what he said, right?
Right.
And so Dave Chappelle's like, I will not be summoned by
Right.
the trans community.
Well, he
You're putting something on me. Like,
there was
and that's
so when he did the closer, man, that was it. The
yeah,
closer was basically out of that hour and a half, that was an hour of just scorched earth, and some of
yeah,
it was empathy. And the two most important things I got were, one, you act like this person was a part of your community, but what the hell have you done for this person? Nothing. I met
right.
this person, I had them open up for my show, and even though
Yeah,
she got to sit in the front row and save that. When she underlined herself, I'm putting all her kids through school, or her kid through school, right?
right.
She's one of you. She's your community. What the hell have you done? Right, to help
Right.
this person.
Yeah.
If she's one of your own, why? No, she's my community. She's a comedian.
Yeah.
And the second thing I got was, he ended by saying
Mm.
this: empathy is not gay or transgender. Empathy is bisexual. It must work both ways. And
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I cried in that when
Yeah.
he told that story about Daphne, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and some of the jokes, he's like, as hard as it was to hear that joke, Daphne, I will only say this: Daphne would appreciate that joke. That's why she was my friend. And I
Right.
almost melted when he said that. That's why she was my
Yeah.
friend, you know?
Well, this is what makes him great, is he's not just set up joke, set up joke. He's
Uh-huh.
giving a social commentary that is, it's wonderful. And we're really, that's why you go see him when he's at the Hollywood Bowl, because he's going to do something incredible.
Yep.
And, when his peers are like, we can't touch him. You got to go see it. It's like whoever the best volleyball player is. It's like Michael Jordan or LeBron, whoever. You got to go see these guys. Otani, you got to go see Otani when he's playing, because it's
Larger
going to
than
be
life.
short lived. It's not going to last as long as you'd like, and so you got to go see it. So yeah, Dave Chappelle's it, man. He's
Larger
he's
than some people are
apex.
just larger than life, dude. I saw Triple
Yeah,
H for the first time in Madison Square Garden. Like, his return to
love it.
the Garden. The dude is larger than
Yeah,
life in person.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate that. And dude, and
I saw Johnny
yeah.
Cash when I was a kid, when I was like 7. He was
Oh, let's
flying out to
go.
go to a fight. He was going to go fight. He was going to go to the fight where Leon Spinks fought Ali, and I happened to be in Tennessee. My folks, we were going on vacation, and there was like this wave that kind of came around. I didn't know who Johnny Cash was, but my folks were like, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" And there's nobody in the airport, but they could tell something was going on. And Johnny Cash showed up, walked around the corner, and they're like, "That's Johnny Cash!" And they were like blown away, and he didn't even do anything. Like, some people just have that thing where they're just bigger than the room. It's crazy. It's crazy when you experience that, when you find someone that just can just put a laser beam on you by just talking to you. It's an incredible experience.
Well, the genius of comedy is you have to eliminate the fourth wall just enough where you connect the audience, but not too
Yeah.
much where the audience dictates your
Yeah.
rhythm and the things that you do well. And Richard, again, we go to the same line of comedians. George Carlin had that, right? He
Oh
he
yeah.
can look at someone. Richard Pryor was fantastic with that, because he's performed in some rowdy audiences, and some of them are tame. And Chappelle has that. Chappelle would stop and
Hmm.
he'd deliberately, literally look at someone, like singularly look at someone in the crowd, and just be like, it gets worse. It's just stay with me. It might get worse or not.
Yeah.
And I respect the heck out of that. Are you a bourbon, vodka, or tequila guy?
My favorite drink is just the one in my hand. I don't get too judgy. I do love good tequila.
Right.
I don't drink as much, but what I drink is usually higher quality now, and I'm not like spending a lot of money on it. You can give me
Yeah.
a bottle of Cristalino, and it'll take
There
me
it
a
is.
year to maybe finish it.
All right.
But
Well, I'm a
I
Brooklyn guy,
appreciate it
so
more.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's it. Go ahead, Brooklyn guy. Go ahead.
No, I'm a vodka guy. I went to high school
Yeah,
next to Brighton Beach, where the Russians are, and those guys start drinking at a very early age, and
yeah.
I used to hang out with them a little bit. So I'm more of a vodka guy. Tequila, I was
Well, at least you're not like in Buffalo when they say vodka,
yeah.
and there's no D in it. It's 2 Ks, vodka. I'm like, come on, you guys,
I remember I was
get a
at a
D in there.
bar and I asked for something cold and girly, and the waitress was like, cold and girly? I'm like, yes. What do you got? She's like, you mean tequila? And I said, no, tequila's for girls. And she's like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, it's for white girls. So 5 minutes later, right? She has like 5 shots of tequila, and I call over. I'm like, come here for a second. Come on, let me talk to you. And I said, what's in the glass? And she's like, tequila. I said, 5 shots of tequila, right? And I said, which table is that going to? And she said, that table over there. And I said, and who's at that table? I said, say it with me. She goes, 5 girls.
Yeah. Right.
It was, and when she brought it to the table, the girls were like, it was just like, you could draw the picture in your head. I'm probably going to edit this out of the podcast, but because when I
make margaritas, I'll say, do you want them regular, strong, or get naked? Like, what do you want? You know the girls always say. They always want get naked.
Yes. Option 3 all the time. Plug in. Hey, let's plug in your website before we get out of here.
Oh, sure.
I have a.
What do you want me to do?
I have a decision to make. Like, if we get to 2 hours and 22 minutes, I got to change the file or get. Sorry, plug it.
Just go to YouTube and type in Pete A. Turner. That's it. Just do that. If you guys dig my stuff, then it'll be there. And
all the links
there'll be a lot of it.
All the links will be attached to the description.
Yeah. So just at Pete. I'm on X. If you want to talk to me on X, I talk to everybody. You got an idea for a podcast? I probably won't listen to you, but no.
Yeah, we rarely listen to each other, right?
Yeah.
Podcasters rarely listen, right? We don't listen. Who has time?
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been.
I'm talking here.
Anyway, my brother. It's been an absolute pleasure, and for my audience, Pete Turner might love you guys, but I don't love you guys. In fact, I can't stand any of you. In fact, we're out of here. So for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPhones and your Droids, if that still exists, for all of you on your desktop, who runs the world? Old school. Me and this dude, old school. That's who rules the world. This is Pete Turner. I am Jason DeBias. This is the episode 258 of the Option Podcast. Stay with me. We're going to hit my music, but for now, we are out of here. Come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're going to love what you hear.